The rain fell mercilessly on St. Michael's Cemetery, turning the freshly dug earth into mud around Isabella Moretti's grave. Alexander Moretti, once a commanding figure in Boston's financial district, stood motionless before the polished granite headstone, his tall frame now bent with grief. The funeral guests had long departed, leaving him alone with his thoughts and the rhythmic patter of raindrops. Mr. Moretti Patrick, the elderly groundskeeper, approached hesitantly. "We need to close the gates soon, sir." Alexander barely nodded, his eyes fixed on the photograph nestled among the roses, Isabella's smile, forever frozen in time. 3 years had passed since that day, yet the pain remained as fresh as the rain-soaked flowers before him. A sudden gust of wind scattered the funeral programs across the wet grass. As Alexander moved to gather them, a familiar scent stopped him: lavender, Isabella's signature perfume. Impossible in this rain. He looked up, and for a moment the world seemed to shift. Through the curtain of rain, he caught a glimpse of something that made his heart stop: a little girl in a blue dress, standing by the old oak tree, adjusting her glasses exactly as Isabella used to do. When he blinked, she was gone, leaving him to question his sanity. "You're seeing her too, aren't you?" Teresa Collins appeared beside him, her voice barely above a whisper. The director of Hope's Haven Orphanage looked at him with knowing eyes. "It's time you knew the truth, Alexander." Before he could respond, another figure emerged from behind the oak: Richard Mitchell, Isabella's estranged brother, his expensive suit soaked through. "Still haunting her grave, Alexander, or is it guilt that brings you here?" Richard, Teresa warned, stepping between them. "The truth will come out," Richard sneered, dropping an envelope at Alexander's feet. "About Isabella's death. About what you did." As Richard disappeared into the rain, Alexander picked up the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a newspaper clipping he'd never seen before: questions arise in arts curators, death police reopen investigation. The rain intensified, but Alexander barely noticed. His world was spinning, memories of Isabella's final days flooding back: her secretive phone calls, the mysterious meetings, her last words: "When you find them, Alex, promise me you'll keep them safe. Promise me you'll understand." A crack of thunder split the sky, and in that flash of lightning, Alexander saw them: 4 little girls watching from the cemetery gates, their silhouettes hauntingly familiar. The storm was just beginning. The golden morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Mohai Investments' executive office, casting long shadows across Alexander's desk. At 42, he cut an impressive figure: tall, broad-shouldered, with premature grey streaking his dark hair. But the Wall Street Journal had once called him Boston's financial wonderkind. Now they called him the ghost of State Street, a man who had retreated into his work after losing everything that mattered. The corner office, once a symbol of his success, had become his sanctuary and prison. Family photos that once adorned the walls were now confined to a single drawer, too painful to display, too precious to discard. Only one remained: Isabella at their vineyard in Tuscany, her laugh caught mid-moment, her eyes sparkling with life. Mr. Moretti, Rebecca, his assistant of 8 years, appeared at the door. "The board is waiting." Alexander nodded, adjusting his tie with practiced precision. "Give me a mere moment." The board meeting was a blur of quarterly reports and investment strategies. Alexander delivered his presentations flawlessly, his voice steady and authoritative. But his mind wandered to the incident at the cemetery, to the envelope Richard had left, to the 4 little girls he'd glimpsed through the rain. "Impressive numbers as always," Alexander James Henderson, the senior board member, commented after the meeting. "But we're concerned." "Oh, bowed. 3 years is a long time to grieve, son. The company needs its CEO present, not just physically, but mentally." Alexander's jaw tightened. "My performance is exemplary," James interrupted. "But you're not living, Alexander. You arrive at 7, leave at 4, never attend social functions. Isabella wouldn't have wanted this. But Isabella, her name still felt like a physical blow. Alexander remembered their first meeting at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. He'd been there to secure a major donor. She'd been the brilliant young curator who saw right through his practiced charm. Art isn't about investment portfolios, Mr. Moetti, she'd challenged. It's about soul. That was Isabella always seeing beneath surfaces, always finding the truth behind carefully constructed facades. She'd transformed him from a numbers-driven executive into someone who could appreciate the beauty in small moments. Their Sunday morning dance sessions in the living room, her impromptu art lessons, the way she'd leave little notes in his briefcase, remember to look up at the sky today, my love. The clouds are dancing. The intercom buzzed, jolting him back to the present. Mr. Moetti, Rebecca's voice was hesitant. There's a MS Collins here to see you, from Hope's Haven Orphanage. But Alexander's hands stilled over the keyboard. Teresa Collins, the woman from the cemetery. Send her in. Teresa entered with quiet grace, her simple black dress and pearl necklace a stark contrast to the office's corporate atmosphere. Thank you for seeing me, Alexander. You said it was time I knew the truth, he replied, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. About what I saw at the cemetery. Teresa sat, smoothing her skirt with practiced calm. Before I explain, I need to show you something. She placed a worn leather journal on his desk, Isabella's diary. She left it in my care, with specific instructions about when to give it to you. Alexander stared at the familiar handwriting on the cover. Why now? Because the girls are ready, and because Richard is making his move. The mention of Richard darkened Alexander's expression. The Mitchell family had opposed Isabella's marriage to Alexander from the start. Old money looking down on new money, Isabella had joked. But there had been something darker in Richard's opposition, something that went beyond social status. The newspaper article he left Alexander began. Is just the beginning, Teresa interrupted. He's trying to destroy you, Alexander, to take everything Isabella left behind. Everything she left. Alexander's voice trailed off as realization dawned. The girls at the cemetery. They're not just similar to Isabella, are they? Teresa's eyes held a mixture of compassion and determination. They're her legacy, Alexander, her greatest gift to you, and they're in danger. The morning sun had climbed higher, casting Teresa's face in sharp relief as she continued. Isabella knew Richard would never stop. That's why she arranged everything through Hope's Haven, why she made me promise to protect them until you were ready. Ready for what? To be a father again. The word hit Alexander like a physical blow. After Isabella's death, they'd found the nursery. She'd been secretly preparing tiny clothes still with tags, a hand-painted mural of butterflies she'd never finished. Their dream of a family had died with her, or so he'd thought. There's more, Teresa continued, opening the diary to a marked page. Isabella left letters for each of the girls. They don't know about them yet. She wanted you to be the one to decide when they were ready. Alexander's fingers traced Isabella's handwriting, feeling the slight indentations where she'd pressed too hard, a habit she had when writing something important. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Isabella was very specific about the timing. She said you needed to find them on your own, to feel the connection without being told. She believed in the power of natural bonds. A knock at the door interrupted them. Rebecca entered with her usual efficiency. I'm sorry, Mr. Moretti, but there's an urgent call from the board. They're calling an emergency meeting. Teresa stood, gathering her belongings. Richard's making his move faster than we anticipated. The article was just the beginning. He's going to try to take control of Moetti Investments. Why? What does the company have to do with the girls? Everything, Alexander. The trust Isabella set up for them, their legal protection, their future, it's all tied to your control of the company. Richard knows that if he can destroy you financially, He can get to them, Alexander finished, his voice hardening with resolve. The numbness that had enveloped him for 3 years was burning away, replaced by a fierce protective instinct he'd thought died with Isabella. "What do you need me to do?" Teresa handed him a key. "Come to Hope's Haven tonight. Meet them properly." See what Isabella saw. She paused at the door. "And Alexander? Bring the butterfly music box from your study. They've been drawing butterflies all week, just like Isabella used to." After she left, Alexander opened his desk drawer and took out the photo he'd been avoiding for 3 years, their last Christmas together. Isabella's smile, bright despite her illness, now seemed to hold a secret he was only beginning to understand. "I promise," he whispered to her image. "I'll keep them safe." Outside his office, Boston's financial district hummed with activity, unaware that one of its most powerful figures was about to wage a different kind of battle, not for profit margins or market shares, but for the legacy of love his wife had left behind. The Boston Museum of Fine Arts stood quiet in the late afternoon sun, its marble facade glowing amber. Alexander found himself in the contemporary arts wing, where Isabella's influence still lingered. Her last exhibition, Echoes of Hope, remained one of the museum's most successful shows. Now, 3 years after her death, he finally had the courage to visit it again. She had a gift for finding beauty in broken things. Sarah Martinez, the current curator and Isabella's former mentee, walked beside him. The exhibition hall was closed to the public, allowing Alexander his first private viewing since the funeral. Every piece she chose told a story of redemption. They stopped before a large canvas, a butterfly emerging from a storm cloud, painted by one of Isabella's art therapy students. This was her real passion, Sarah continued, gesturing to the collection of children's artwork. The healing power of art. Did you know she spent every Saturday at Hope's Haven teaching orphan children to paint? Alexander shook his head. Those last months of Isabella's life held so many mysteries, so many unexplained absences he'd attributed to her illness. Tell me about the program. Sarah's eyes lit up. Art as healing, that was her baby. She believed every child had an inner light that could shine through art. The program started small, just weekend classes at Hope's Haven. But Isabella had bigger dreams. She was working on establishing a permanent foundation when she got sick, Alexander finished. The memories rushed back: the first diagnosis, the specialists, the experimental treatments that seemed to take her away from him more and more. Not just sick, Sarah corrected gently. She was racing against time. The night before we lost her, she was here until dawn, finalizing paperwork for the foundation. She said everything had to be perfect, that lives depended on it. They moved through the gallery, each piece triggering memories. Isabella's office remained untouched, a shrine to her vision. Sarah unlocked the door, and Alexander stepped into the space his wife had called her thinking room. The walls were covered with children's artwork, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the elegant museum setting. But it was the desk that caught his attention specifically, a leather-bound portfolio he'd never seen before. That arrived last week, Sarah explained, from Teresa Collins at Hope's Haven. Isabella arranged for it to be delivered exactly 3 years after her death. With trembling hands, Alexander opened the portfolio. Inside were dozens of sketches, all by Isabella, all of children. But 4 faces appeared repeatedly, drawn with such detail they seemed to leap from the pages. 4 little girls, their features hauntingly familiar. She drew them constantly those last months, Sarah said softly. When I asked about them, she just smiled and said, "They're my butterflies, Sarah. They'll emerge when the time is right." A note card fluttered from between the pages. Isabella's handwriting, still bold despite her illness. My dearest Alex, if you're reading this, you've finally found your way back to my thinking room. The girls in these drawings, they're real, my love. Each one carries a piece of my heart, a fragment of my soul. Richard will try to convince you there's something else, something to be studied or controlled. But they're children, Alex, our children. the family we dreamed of having. Look deeper. The truth is in the details. Forever yours, Isabella. Alexander studied the drawings with new eyes. Each girl was captured in a moment that echoed Isabella, one adjusting glasses just as she did, another lost in a book, a third dancing, the fourth painting with intense concentration. There's more, Sarah said, pulling out a hidden drawer in Isabella's desk. She left instructions about these two. She handed him a stack of sealed envelopes, each marked with a different date. One for each birthday until they turn 18. How long have you known about them? Sarah's expression softened. Isabella swore me to secrecy. She said you had to find them in your own time, when your heart was ready to love again. The sound of footsteps in the corridor interrupted them. Richard Mitchell appeared in the doorway, his presence darkening the room. "Ah, memory lane," he sneered. "How touching." "This is a private viewing, Mr. Mitchell," Sarah said firmly. Richard ignored her, his eyes fixed on the portfolio in Alexander's hands. "I see you found her little drawings. Quite an imagination my sister had near the end. The doctors said the medication might cause delusions." "Get out!" Richard Alexander's voice was low, dangerous. The board meeting went well, Richard continued, examining his manicured nails. "Did you know Isabella left her shares in Morty Investments to a trust controlled by Hope's Haven, of all places. Quite irregular. Some might say she wasn't in her right mind." Alexander stepped forward, but Sarah caught his arm. "He's not worth it," she whispered. Richard smiled coldly. "The police are very interested in Isabella's final days. The unexplained withdrawals from your joint accounts, the secret meetings, the mysterious legal documents. It all paints quite a picture." "My wife was setting up a children's foundation," Alexander replied. "Everything was legal and documented." Was it? Or was she protecting something else? Someone else. Richard picked up one of the drawings. 4 little girls, Alex. 4 perfect little copies of my sister. Don't you find that strange? Before Alexander could respond, Teresa Collins appeared behind Richard. "I believe you're trespassing, Mr. Mitchell. The museum is closed to the public." Richard's smile didn't waver. "Teresa, still carrying out my dead sister's wishes? Or do you have other motivations? The trust fund is quite substantial, after all." "Leave." Now Teresa's voice held steel. "Before I call security." After Richard departed, Teresa turned to Alexander. "We need to move quickly. He's filed a motion to freeze Isabella's assets, claiming mental incapacity during her final months." "Can he do that?" Sarah asked. "He can try. But Isabella was smarter than he knows. Everything is protected: the foundation, the trust, the girls. We just need to follow her plan." Alexander gathered the portfolio and envelopes, his mind racing. "The emergency board meeting today, they're voting on a takeover proposal, aren't they?" Teresa nodded. "Richard's been buying shares through shell companies. If he gains control of Moretti Investments, he gains control of Isabella's trust," Alexander finished. "And the girls?" "Not if we move first," Teresa replied. "Isabella left instructions for this too. It's time to open the butterfly box, Alexander." The setting sun cast long shadows through the gallery windows, turning Isabella's children's artwork into a kaleidoscope of colors. Somewhere in the city, 4 little girls were drawing butterflies, unaware that their future hung in the balance. Alexander clutched the portfolio to his chest, feeling closer to Isabella than he had in years. She'd planned it all: the foundation, the trust, the protection of their unexpected family. Now it was his turn to complete her vision. "Let's go meet our daughters," he said softly. As they left the museum, a butterfly landed on Isabella's favorite sculpture, a sign. Sarah would later say that love finds a way to endure, to transform, to take flight in the most unexpected ways. Hope's Haven stood at the end of Maple Avenue, its Victorian architecture a stark contrast to Boston's modern skyline. Teresa Collins had transformed the once abandoned mansion into a sanctuary for orphaned children, though few knew the true purpose behind its founding. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the stained glass windows as Teresa led Alexander through the quiet halls. Children's artwork lined the walls, hundreds of butterflies in every color imaginable. Isabella's influence, she explained. Even after she left us, the children kept drawing them. They paused before a heavy oak door marked director's office inside. Dr. Sarah Bennett waited, the same doctor who had cared for Isabella during her final months. Her presence here at Hope's Haven was yet another piece of the puzzle Alexander was struggling to understand. "You look surprised to see me," Sarah said, rising from her chair. At 50, she carried herself with the quiet authority of someone used to keeping difficult secrets. "Isabella made me promise to be here when the time came." Teresa locked the door behind them. "We need to tell him everything now. Richard's moving faster than we anticipated." Sarah nodded, pulling a thick file from her briefcase. Isabella knew this day would come. She left detailed instructions, contingency plans for every scenario. "Start from the beginning," Alexander demanded, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Who are these girls really?" The two women exchanged glances. It was Teresa who spoke first, her voice soft but clear. "They're orphans, Alexander, special ones that Isabella chose personally. She spent months searching, working with international adoption agencies, looking for children who needed homes, children who by some miracle shared certain characteristics. Alexander's throat tightened. They're identical to her. The gestures, the mannerisms. Isabella had a gift for seeing patterns, Sarah explained. She could recognize pieces of herself in others. These girls, they're not copies or experiments. They're children who naturally embody different aspects of who she was. She believed it was more than coincidence. A knock at the door interrupted them. "Miss Teresa," a young voice called. "Sophia's had another dream about the butterfly lady." Teresa moved to answer, but Alexander caught her arm. "Sophia." "The oldest of the four. She's the artist." Teresa's eyes softened. "She paints exactly like Isabella used to." Before she could open the door, another figure appeared in the window, Richard Mitchell, flanked by two police officers. "Teresa Collins," one officer called. "We have a warrant to search the premises." Sarah moved quickly, gathering papers. "We're not ready. The girls aren't prepared." "They'll have to be," Teresa replied grimly. She turned to Alexander. "There's a garden house behind the main building. Take this key. Everything you need to know is their documents, letters, proof of Isabella's plans. Go, now. We'll handle Richard." Alexander hesitated. "The girls are safe with their teachers. Go." The garden house was small but well-maintained, its interior a perfect replica of Isabella's studio at the museum. Alexander's hands trembled as he unlocked the door. Inside, the walls were covered with photographs, hundreds of them, documenting Isabella's secret visits to Hope's Haven over the years. A leather journal lay open on the desk, Isabella's familiar handwriting filling its pages. "My dearest Alex, if you're reading this, then Richard has made his move sooner than we hoped. What I'm about to tell you will seem impossible, but please read with an open heart. The girls, Sophia, Clara, Helena, and Amelia, they're not just random orphans. Each one reminds me of a different part of myself, not by design or science, but by some beautiful miracle of fate. Sophia has my passion for art, Clara my empathy, Helena my love of knowledge, and Amelia my joy for life. I found them over years of working with orphanages worldwide. When I discovered my illness, I knew I had to bring them together, to give them the family they deserved, the family we always dreamed of having. Richard will try to twist this into something dark. He'll claim I was obsessed, delusional. But you know me, Alex. You know my heart. These girls deserve love, protection, and a father who will understand their special gifts. There's more you need to know. Teresa isn't just the director of Hope's Haven. She's my sister, the one my parents gave up for adoption before I was born. I found her years ago, but kept our relationship secret to protect her from Richard's influence. Sarah has been more than my doctor. She's been our guardian angel, helping to establish the legal framework that will protect the girls from Richard's claims. Everything is in place: the foundation, the trust funds, the legal documents. But the most important piece has always been you, Alex. Your love, your strength, your ability to see beauty in broken things. The girls are your daughters now, my love. Protect them, love them, let them help you heal. Forever yours, Isabella. Outside, Richard's voice carried across the garden. Search everything. Isabella was not in her right mind when she set up this foundation. These children need proper evaluation and care. A small sound made Alexander turn. In the doorway stood 4 little girls, their faces a mix of fear and determination. Sophia, the artist, stepped forward first. "Are you really our dad now?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Before Alexander could answer, shouts erupted from the main building. Teresa's voice rang out, strong and clear. "You have no right to traumatize these children, Richard." "These aren't just any children." Richard's voice was cold. "They're Isabella's experiments, her obsession. They need to be studied, understood. They need to be loved," Alexander said, stepping out of the garden house with the girls behind him. "That's all Isabella wanted. That's all any child needs." The setting sun painted the scene in shades of gold. Richard and the police by the main door, Teresa and Sarah standing protectively in front of the other children, and Alexander with his 4 daughters, Isabella's final gift of love. In that moment, looking at the girls who carried pieces of his wife's spirit, Alexander finally understood. This wasn't about science or genetics or legal claims. It was about love finding a way to endure, to transform, to create family bonds that transcended traditional boundaries. The battle for Hope's Haven was just beginning, but Alexander was no longer alone in his fight. He had Teresa's fierce protection, Sarah's unwavering support, and most importantly, 4 little girls who needed him as much as he needed them. As if sensing his thoughts, Sophia slipped her small hand into his. "The butterfly lady said you'd come," she whispered. "She said love always finds a way home." Maple Avenue was particularly beautiful that autumn morning, with leaves painting the sidewalks in shades of gold and crimson. Alexander walked his usual route to the office, a habit Isabella had insisted he maintain even after her passing. "Clear your mind, my love," she'd say. "The answers come when we stop searching so hard." The children's laughter reached him first, bright, musical notes cutting through his melancholy. He almost walked past them, almost maintained the careful emotional distance he'd cultivated over the past 3 years. But something made him stop. 4 little girls played hopscotch on the sidewalk in front of Hope's Haven, their movements synchronized in an almost ethereal dance. Alexander felt his world tilt on its axis as he watched them, each gesture, each mannerism striking a chord of recognition so deep it physically hurt. The first girl, wearing a navy blue dress with a red ribbon in her dark hair, jumped with the same determined concentration Isabella showed when planning her exhibitions. Her tongue caught between her teeth, brow furrowed in focus. It was Isabella's expression exactly. The second child, in a green jumpsuit, paused to help a younger kid who had fallen nearby. Her gentle smile, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear as she knelt down. Alexander had seen that gesture 1,000 times across dinner tables and museum galleries. The third adjusted her glasses with such familiar precision that Alexander had to grip a nearby fence for support. Isabella had done the same thing whenever she was deep in thought, pushing the frames up with her middle finger while her index finger tapped against the lens. But it was the 4th girl who broke him completely. She danced between turns, lost in her own world of music only she could hear. Isabella had danced the same way in their kitchen on Sunday mornings, barefoot and beautiful, always saying, "Life is too short not to dance, Alex." Beautiful children, aren't they? Teresa Collins appeared beside him, her presence both comforting and unsettling. They came to us 3 months ago. Alexander couldn't speak. His eyes remained fixed on the girls, drinking in every movement, every laugh, every detail that echoed his late wife. "Sophia is our artist," Teresa continued softly, nodding toward the girl in the navy dress. "She paints for hours, just like—" "Stop!" Alexander's voice was raw. "This isn't possible." "What isn't possible, Mr. Murray?" "That these orphan girls might share some characteristics with someone they'd never met, or that love might find ways to endure that we don't understand." The girl in glasses, Helena, according to the name embroidered on her sweater, looked up then. Her eyes met Alexander's with an intensity that stole his breath. "You're the man from the butterfly lady's picture," she said matter-of-factly. "Butterfly lady?" "From our dreams," Sophia explained, joining her sister. "She shows us paintings and tells us stories about butterflies coming out of storms." Alexander's legs threatened to give way. Isabella's last exhibition had featured that exact theme, transformation through adversity. She'd called it Chrysalis Love's Metamorphosis. Clara, the gentle soul in green, approached next. "She said you'd come when the leaves turned gold. She said you'd know us by our hearts." Amelia, the dancer, twirled closer. "Do you want to see our drawings? We all draw the same lady, but different parts of her." Sophia gets her smile right. I can never do the smile, but I know how she dances. Teresa watched the interaction with careful eyes. They each remembered different things, Alexander, different pieces of a whole they never knew but somehow carry within them. Remember, his voice cracked. They never knew her. This isn't. They can't. "Can't what?" Richard Mitchell's cold voice cut through the moment. He stood at the gates of Hope's Haven, elegant as always in his tailored suit. "Can't be exactly what they appear to be. 4 perfect little copies of my dear departed sister." The girls instinctively moved closer to Alexander, as if they'd been waiting their whole lives to seek his protection. Sophia gripped his hand, her small fingers intertwining with his just as Isabella's had countless times before. "They're not copies," Teresa said firmly. "They're children. Orphans who need love and protection, not your twisted interpretations." Richard smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Are they?" "Let's look at the facts. 4 girls, all the same age, all appearing mysteriously after Isabella's death, all showing identical mannerisms to my sister. Quite a coincidence, wouldn't you say?" "Leave them alone." Richard Alexander found his voice, stronger now with the weight of 4 small hands clutching his coat. "Oh, I'm not going anywhere, Alexander. In fact, I've just filed for emergency guardianship of all 4 girls, as Isabella's only living relative." "That's not true," Teresa interrupted, her voice sharp. "I am Isabella's sister." The revelation hung in the autumn air like the last leaf before winter. Richard's face contorted with rage. "Impossible. My parents never had another daughter. The one they gave up for adoption before you were born. The sister Isabella found and protected from you." Teresa's smile was cold. "Check your facts, Richard. Isabella left everything prepared." The girls watched the exchange with unnaturally adult understanding. Helena, the observer, whispered something to Sophia, who immediately began to sketch in her ever-present notebook. Clara comforted a trembling Amelia, while keeping her eyes fixed on Richard with surprising defiance. "You'll be hearing from my lawyers," Richard spat, turning on his heel. "All of you." After he left, Alexander looked at Teresa with new eyes. "Isabella's sister." "There's so much you need to know, Alexander. So much." She prepared for this moment. Teresa gestured toward the mansion. "Come inside. It's time you saw Isabella's sanctuary." The girls led the way, moving with the comfortable familiarity of home. Inside, the walls were covered with children's artwork, hundreds of butterflies in every imaginable color and style. But it was the large painting over the fireplace that caught Alexander's eye, a woman in a garden of butterflies, her face turned away but her stance unmistakably Isabella's. "Sophia painted that last week," Teresa explained. "She said the butterfly lady showed her how in a dream." Alexander approached the painting, his heart racing. In the corner, in childish handwriting, were words that brought him to his knees. "Love finds a way to fly again. SM, SM, SM. Sophia Moetti." The same initials Isabella used to sign her works. The girls gathered around him, their presence both comforting and overwhelming. Each carried a piece of Isabella, not in their faces or their DNA, but in the essence of who they were becoming. "Are you going to be our daddy now?" Amelia asked, her dance stilled for once. Before Alexander could answer, Sophia pressed something into his hand, her latest sketch. It showed all 5 of them together, surrounded by butterflies, with a familiar figure watching from above. "She said you'd know what to do," Sophia whispered. "The butterfly lady. She said love always knows the way home." The mahogany grandfather clock in Hope's Heaven's library chimed midnight, but Alexander couldn't tear himself away from the documents spread before him. Isabella's journals, letters, legal papers, each page revealed another layer of the intricate plan she had crafted before her death. "She spent months preparing everything," Teresa explained, pouring them both another cup of coffee. The girls had long since gone to bed, but their presence lingered in the artwork covering the library walls. The adoption arrangements, the trust funds, the legal protections, she thought of everything. Alexander held up a photograph of Isabella at Hope's Haven, surrounded by children, her smile radiant despite her obvious illness. The timestamp showed it was taken just weeks before her death. Why didn't she tell me? She tried. In her way, Teresa sat across from him, her resemblance to Isabella more noticeable in the soft lamplight. Those last months when she kept talking about butterflies and transformation, she was trying to prepare you. The journal entries painted a picture of Isabella's final months that broke Alexander's heart anew. October 15th found Sophia today. She was painting in the orphanage's art room, her tongue caught between her teeth, just like I do when I'm concentrating. The connection was instant. When she smiled, I saw myself at that age, full of dreams and colors. November 3rd, Clara has such gentle wisdom. The way she comforts the younger children, always knowing exactly what they need. I used to think my empathy was learned, but seeing it in her makes me wonder if some souls are just born understanding others' pain. December 8th, Helena devours books like I did at her age. Found her in the library, glasses slipping down her nose, lost in a world of words. She asks questions that make the adults uncomfortable, just like I used to do. December 24th, Amelia dances when she thinks no one's watching. My little fairy, moving to music only she can hear. She reminds me of myself before the world taught me to be still. A knock at the library door interrupted their reading. Dr. Sarah Bennett entered, carrying more files. The preliminary DNA tests Richard ordered came back, she announced. All negative, of course. The girls aren't biologically related to Isabella. Of course they're not, Alexander replied, frustrated. That's not what makes them special. Try telling that to Richard, Sarah sighed. He's convinced there's some medical explanation. He's filed motions for more extensive testing. Over my dead body, Teresa's voice was steel. Those girls have been through enough. Alexander picked up another document, a legal brief outlining the adoption process. Everything was meticulously documented, every I dotted and T crossed. Isabella had created an unbreakable chain of custody. She knew Richard would try something like this, Teresa explained. That's why she made the adoptions ironclad. The girls were legally placed with Hope's Haven, with clear provisions for their future care. Including my guardianship, Alexander asked. Especially that. But it had to be your choice, Alexander. Isabella was very clear you had to find them on your own, had to feel the connection naturally. A small sound from the doorway made them all turn. Sophia stood there in her butterfly pajamas, sketchbook clutched to her chest. "I had another dream," she said softly. Alexander opened his arms instinctively and she came to him, curling into his lap like she'd done it 1,000 times before. "Tell me about it." The butterfly lady Isabella, she was in her special room at the museum. She was hiding something important behind the big sunflower painting. She said Sophia's brow furrowed in concentration. She said the truth is in the heart of the garden. Sarah and Teresa exchanged meaningful looks. The sunflower painting, Sarah mused. It's still in her office at the museum. "We need to get there before Richard does," Teresa stood. "If Isabella left more evidence—" "It's not evidence," Sophia interrupted, opening her sketchbook. "It's love letters. One for each of us for every birthday until we're 18. And something else, something about Richard, about why he's so angry." The sketch showed Isabella at her desk, writing letters with a familiar butterfly music box beside her. Alexander's throat tightened, the same box that now sat in his study at home. "How did you know about the music box?" he whispered. "I didn't," Sophia replied simply. "She showed me. Just like she shows me other things, how to mix colors, how to see the light in shadows, how to love people who are hurting." As if summoned by their conversation, the other girls appeared in the doorway. Helena clutched a book of poetry, Isabella's favorite real collection. Clara carried a small first aid kit, always ready to help. Amelia wore her ballet slippers, ready to dance at a moment's notice. "We all dream about her," Helena explained, adjusting her glasses. "Different dreams, different memories, but always with the same message." "What message?" Alexander asked, though somehow he already knew. "That love finds a way," Clara said softly. "That family isn't just blood," Amelia added, executing a perfect pirouette. "That you need us as much as we need you," Sophia finished, showing him her latest drawing, all of them together, surrounded by butterflies, with Isabella's smile watching over them. The grandfather clock struck 1, its deep tones echoing through the mansion. Outside, a car door slammed. Teresa moved quickly to the window. "Richard," she reported grimly. "With police." "He's not giving up," Sarah warned. "He's obsessed with proving there's something unnatural about the girl's connection to Isabella." Alexander stood, still holding Sophia, the other girls gathering close. In that moment, looking at their trusting faces, each reflecting a different aspect of Isabella's spirit, he made his decision. "There is something unnatural," he said firmly. "It's called love. And Richard will never understand it because he's never truly experienced it." The pounding on the front door echoed through the house. But Alexander felt no fear now, only a fierce protectiveness he thought died with Isabella. "Get the girls upstairs," he instructed Teresa. "Sarah, bring me everything we have on Richard's activities during Isabella's illness. It's time we stopped playing defense." As Teresa led the girls away, Sophia turned back. "Dad!" The word sent a shock through Alexander's heart. "Yes, sweetheart." "She said you'd know what to do when the time came. She said love always protects its own." The front door opened and Richard's voice carried up the stairs. But Alexander stood firm, Isabella's journal pressed to his heart, surrounded by the artwork of 4 extraordinary girls who had brought love back into his life. The real investigation was just beginning, not into the mystery of the girls' connection to Isabella, but into the depths of Richard's obsession and the lengths to which love would go to protect its own. Richard Mitchell's footsteps echoed through Hope's Heaven's hallway, accompanied by the heavier tread of police officers. Alexander stood at the top of the grand staircase, a position that let him watch the approaching group while keeping the library and the girls safely behind him. "Mr. Motti," Lieutenant Carter nodded respectfully. "We have a warrant to search the premises." Mr. Mitchell has raised concerns about the welfare of 4 specific children. Concerns Alexander's voice was cold, or obsessions. Richard stepped forward, immaculate in his tailored suit despite the late hour. Just looking out for my sister's interests, Alexander. Someone has to protect her legacy from those who might exploit it. Her legacy, Teresa emerged from the library, her resemblance to Isabella particularly striking in her anger. You never understood what that meant to her, Richard. You never understood her at all. The police began their search, their movements echoing through the old mansion. From upstairs came the faint sound of a music box, Isabella's lullaby, played by hands too young to know its significance. Ah, Richard smiled coldly. The butterfly song. Isabella's favorite. Interesting how these girls seem to know so many intimate details about my sister, isn't it, Lieutenant? Lieutenant Carter looked uncomfortable. Mr. Mitchell has presented evidence suggesting irregular adoption procedures. Every adoption was legal and documented, Sarah interrupted, joining them with a thick folder. I have copies of all paperwork here, including Isabella's explicit wishes regarding the girl's care. Wishes made when she was heavily medicated, Richard countered smoothly. When she wasn't in her right mind. But that's a lie, the voice came from above. Sophia stood at the top of the stairs, her small frame straight with determination. The other girls flanked her, Helena with her glasses flashing defiance, Clara holding Amelia's trembling hand. She wasn't confused, Sophia continued, her voice carrying the weight of certainty. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew you'd try to hurt us, Uncle Richard. Richard's face darkened. I'm trying to protect you. These people are using you, manipulating you. Like you manipulated her medical records, Helena stepped forward, adjusting her glasses exactly as Isabella used to do when presenting uncomfortable truths. We found the papers in your office. You? What? Richard's composure cracked. Last week, when you invited us to your house, Clara explained softly. You wanted to prove we were copies of her, but we found something else instead. The real reason you're angry, Amelia added, her dancer's grace making her movements seem otherworldly. We know what you did to her. Lieutenant Carter turned to Richard sharply. What are they talking about? Alexander watched the scene unfold, remembering Isabella's words in her journal. The girls will know. They'll see what others missed. Truth speaks through innocent hearts. They're confused. Richard attempted to regain control. Children with active imaginations. Children who found these. Teresa produced a stack of documents from her folder. Isabella's original medical records. Not the ones you submitted to the court, Richard. The real ones. Lieutenant Carter took the papers, his professional demeanor slipping as he read. These show. These suggest. That Isabella's decline was accelerated, Sarah finished grimly. That someone had access to her medication was altering dosages. You wanted her to die, Sophia's voice cracked, because she found out about the money you stole from the foundation, because she was going to expose you. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard's face had gone pale, his carefully constructed facade crumbling. Lieutenant Alexander said quietly, I believe you'll find these documents merit a different kind of investigation. The police officers who had been searching the house returned, finding nothing irregular. Lieutenant Carter was still reading the medical records, his expression growing darker. Mr. Mitchell, he finally said, I think you should accompany us to the station. We have some questions about these records. This is absurd, Richard sputtered. You can't possibly believe. We believe in love, Clara interrupted, her gentle voice carrying unexpected authority. That's what she taught us. Love sees truth that others miss. As the police led Richard away, the girls descended the stairs as one, gathering around Alexander like butterflies returning to their garden. Sophia held up her sketchbook, showing a new drawing, Richard behind bars, while butterflies flew free above him. How did you know? Alexander asked softly. about the records. She showed us, Helena explained, in our dreams. She said justice needs help sometimes, but love always finds a way. Teresa and Sarah exchanged knowing looks. Isabella's final gift, Teresa murmured, not just the girls, but the truth they would help reveal. The grandfather clock struck 2, its chime softer now, almost peaceful. Outside, police lights painted the autumn trees in red and blue, fading as they took Richard away. Inside, 4 little girls and the adults who loved them stood in a circle of trust and protection that Isabella had crafted with her last breaths. "What happens now?" Amelia asked, executing a small spin of relief. Alexander looked at these extraordinary children, not copies or experiments, but souls that somehow carried echoes of the woman he had loved, each one unique, yet connected by threads of love that defied explanation. Now he smiled, gathering them close. "We become the family she always knew we could be." Sophia tugged his sleeve. "Can we paint the nursery with butterflies, like the one she never finished?" Alexander's heart caught. The nursery, their nursery, had remained sealed since Isabella's death. But now... "Yes," he whispered. "We can paint it together. All of us." As if in response, a real butterfly, impossible for the season, fluttered past the window, its wings catching the moonlight like a final benediction from Isabella herself. The first battle was won, but Alexander knew there would be more challenges ahead. Richard's arrest was just the beginning. But looking at these 4 brave girls, each carrying a piece of Isabella's spirit, he felt ready for whatever came next. Love had found its way home, just as Isabella had promised. And home, they were discovering, was not a place but a connection of family bound, not by blood but by something far stronger, the legacy of a love that refused to die. The Boston Globe's headline hit like a physical blow. "Questions arise in arts curator S. death, widower under investigation." Alexander stood in his kitchen, coffee growing cold, as he read the article that would change everything. Sources close to the investigation revealed that Alexander Moetti, CEO of Moretti Investments, may have played a role in the mysterious circumstances surrounding his wife's death. Recently discovered documents suggest financial irregularities and suspicious medical decisions in Isabella Moretti's final months. The doorbell rang, reporters already gathering outside the mansion's gates. His phone buzzed constantly with calls from board members, colleagues, friends. Everyone wanted answers to questions he never thought he'd have to face. Dad, Sophia stood in the doorway, still in her butterfly pajamas, clutching her sketchbook. "There are people with cameras outside my school." Alexander's heart clenched. Just 3 months after the girls had come into his life, just as they were beginning to feel like a real family, Richard had launched his counterattack from behind bars. Mr. Moetti, Rebecca, his assistant of 8 years, entered with a stack of papers. "The board is calling an emergency meeting." And she hesitated. "Several major clients have already called to withdraw their investments." The kitchen television flickered with breaking news. Richard's face filled the screen. "Speaking from jail through his attorney, I've spent years trying to uncover the truth about my sister's death. The irregular medical decisions, the missing foundation funds, the mysterious adoptions. It all points to a carefully orchestrated plan. Those 4 innocent girls are just the latest victims in Alexander Moetti's obsession with my sister." Teresa arrived breathless, holding more newspapers. "It's in every major outlet. Richard's people have been feeding them information for months, waiting for the right moment." "What information?" Alexander demanded. "Bank records showing large withdrawals from Isabella's medical fund, altered prescription records, emails taken out of context. He's painted a picture of you as a controlling husband who couldn't bear to lose his wife, who made desperate medical decisions that accelerated her decline." The sound of crying drew their attention. Clara stood in the hallway, her school backpack dropped at her feet. "Tommy's mum said we can't play together anymore," she said. "She said our dad did bad things." Alexander moved to comfort her, But Clara stepped back, confusion and fear warring in her eyes. Did you hurt her? The question cut deeper than any headline. No, sweetheart. I loved Isabella more than anything in this world, until I found you four. Then why is everyone saying such horrible things? Helena appeared, her glasses fogged with tears. She held up her phone, showing social media posts that made Alexander's blood run cold. People were calling for investigations, for the girls to be removed from his care. Because sometimes, Teresa said gently, people believe lies when they're wrapped in just enough truth to sound convincing. Amelia's dance instructor called to cancel her lessons. Helena's science club asked her not to attend the next meeting. Sophia's art teacher, who had praised her talent just yesterday, now suggested she take a break from classes. The isolation was swift and absolute. Sarah arrived with more bad news. Child Services has been contacted. They're opening an investigation into the girl's adoption process. But everything was legal, Alexander protested. Isabella documented everything. Richard's lawyers are claiming those documents were forged. That Isabella wasn't mentally competent when she set up the adoptions. They're painting you as someone who preyed on a dying woman's delusions. The doorbell rang again, more reporters. Through the window, Alexander could see them setting up cameras, hungry for the story of the wealthy CEO who allegedly killed his wife and adopted look-alike children in some twisted attempt to replace her. Dad, Sophia's voice was small. I drew something about what's going to happen. Her sketch showed their family surrounded by storm clouds, but with butterflies leading them toward light. In the corner, she'd written Isabella's favorite quote, "The truth fears no questions." We should leave, Teresa suggested. Take the girls somewhere safe until this blows over. But no, Alexander's voice was firm. Isabella never ran from lies, and neither will we. She left us everything we need to fight this. The butterfly box, Helena said suddenly. In your study. We've all been dreaming about it. Alexander had avoided opening Isabella's old music box, too painful a reminder. But now, inside, they found letters dated for this exact week. Isabella had known, somehow, what Richard would do. My dearest Alex. Her words brought fresh tears to his eyes. If you're reading this, Richard has made his move. He's using my death as a weapon, trying to destroy the family we created. But remember, truth leaves traces that lies can't erase. Look in the garden house. Behind the butterfly mural. Everything you need is there. You start searching, Teresa said. I'll handle the press. As Alexander and the girls made their way to the garden house, reporters shouted questions. Mr. Moretti, did you alter your wife's medication? Were the adoptions illegal? Are these girls part of some experimental program? Sophia grabbed his hand tight. She said we'd have to be brave, she whispered. She said the storm comes before the butterflies can fly. In the garden house, behind a painting of monarchs in flight, they found a hidden safe. Inside was everything they needed: the original medical records showing Richard's tampering, bank statements proving his embezzlement from the foundation, and Isabella's detailed documentation of his threats when she discovered his crimes. But most precious were the videos Isabella in her final months, recording messages for each girl, for Alexander, documenting her journey to create this unique family. The truth isn't always enough. Isabella's voice filled the garden house. Sometimes it needs protectors. That's why I chose you, Alex. That's why I brought our girls together. Love sees truth that others miss. As they watched the videos, a new headline flashed on Alexander's phone: Moretti children to be questioned by authorities, custody hearing scheduled. The storm was here. But looking at his daughters, each carrying a piece of Isabella's spirit, each showing a strength beyond their years, Alexander knew they would weather it together. Sophia was already drawing again, her small face set with determination. This time her sketch showed their family standing strong against dark clouds, with Isabella's butterflies surrounding them like a shield of light. The truth would come out. Love would find a way. Isabella had prepared them for this battle, and they would not fight it alone. The hardest part wasn't the headlines or the legal battles, it was watching the community they'd trusted turn its back on them. Westbrook Academy, where the girls had finally begun to feel at home, transformed overnight from a sanctuary into a battleground. "I'm sorry Mr. Moetti," Principal Edwards wouldn't meet Alexander's eyes during their morning meeting. "But given the current circumstances, we feel it's best if the girls take an indefinite leave of absence. The other parents have expressed concerns." Concerns? Alexander's voice was tight. "These children have done nothing wrong." "It's not about what they've done. It's about the questions surrounding their adoption, their unusual connection to your late wife, and now these allegations." She slid a manila envelope across her desk. "We have a responsibility to our school community." Outside the principal's office, the girls waited, already understanding more than children their age should. Helena clutched her science fair project, a study of butterfly migration patterns that had won first place just last week. Now, the same teachers who had praised her work wouldn't meet her eyes. "Can I at least say goodbye to my friends?" Clara asked softly. "Honey, they're not letting anyone near us," Amelia answered, her usual dance-like movement stilled by sadness. "Sarah Miller's mum crossed the street yesterday when she saw me coming." Sophia sat silently, sketching in her notebook. The image taking shape showed their school, but with shadows creeping up the walls while butterflies carried away small figures that looked like them. The rejection spread like ripples in a pond. The invitations to birthday parties were rescinded. Dance classes suddenly had no openings. The local art studio where Sophia had shone so brightly posted a private lessons only sign when they approached. Even their neighbors, who had watched the girls grow over the past months, began closing their curtains when the family walked past. The weekend barbecues, the impromptu playmates, the casual front yard conversations all vanished as if they'd never existed. "It's not fair," Helena declared one evening, throwing her glasses onto the kitchen table in frustration. "They're judging us without even asking for our side of the story." Teresa, who had moved in to help manage the crisis, looked up from her laptop where she'd been monitoring the growing social media storm. "People fear what they don't understand, sweetheart, and our family is unique." "But we're not doing anything wrong," Clara's gentle nature finally cracked. "We're just trying to be a family. Why can't they see that?" Alexander watched his daughters struggle with the injustice of it all. The community's rejection was teaching them harsh lessons about loyalty and prejudice far too early. The breaking point came during Sunday service at St. Michael's Church, where Isabella had once taught art to underprivileged children. As the family walked to their usual pew, people began to move away, creating an island of empty seats around them. Perhaps Father Thomas suggested quietly after the service, "You might find another parish more accepting of your situation." That afternoon they sat in their garden, the one place that still felt safe. The butterfly bushes Isabella had planted were in full bloom, but even their beauty couldn't lift the heavy atmosphere. Dad, Sophia looked up from her sketchbook. "I think I know why everyone's so scared of us." "Why's that, sweetheart?" "Because we remind them that love doesn't always follow rules. The butterfly lady Isabella, she told me in my dream. She said sometimes love finds new ways to make families, and that scares people who only understand old ways." Clara nodded, her empathy shining through despite her own pain. "Like Tommy's mum, she's not really angry at us. She's scared because she can't explain how we can be so much like Isabella without being her real daughters." "But we are real," Helena insisted. "Our love is real. Our family is real." Amelia, who had been unusually still, suddenly began to dance slow, graceful movements that reminded Alexander painfully of Isabella. "Maybe we need to show them," she suggested, twirling. "Not tell them, show them." Show them what Alexander asked. That love makes its own kind of sense, Sophia answered, turning her sketchbook around. She'd drawn their family surrounded by the community, but instead of shadows and fear, there were butterflies connecting everyone, creating bridges of understanding. Teresa joined them, carrying a fresh batch of mail, more cancellations, more rejections, more closed doors, but her expression was determined. Isabella knew this would happen, she said, pulling out another letter from the butterfly box. Listen to what she wrote. When the world turns its back, that's when you know who your true family is. The ones who stay, who fight beside you, who believe in love's power to transform, they're the ones who matter. As if in response to Isabella's words, the doorbell rang. They all tensed, expecting more reporters or angry neighbors. Instead, they found Sarah Bennett on their doorstep, along with a small group of supporters' families who had benefited from Isabella's art therapy program, children who had found hope at Hope's Haven, teachers who refused to believe the lies. "We're here," Sarah said simply, "because Isabella taught us that love is stronger than fear, and we're not letting her family face this alone." That evening, as the girls prepared for another uncertain week, Alexander found Sophia adding to her sketch. Now there were more butterflies, more connections, more light breaking through the shadows. "The butterfly lady was right," she said, not looking up. "The people who matter stay, and love always finds more love." The community's rejection had wounded them deeply, but it had also shown them who their true allies were. In the garden, Isabella's butterflies continued to dance among the flowers, reminding them that transformation often begins with loss, and that the strongest families are forged in adversity's fire. The truth emerged not with a bang but with a whisper, carried on the last autumn breeze of October. Martha Wilson, Richard's former secretary of 15 years, stood trembling in Teresa's office at Hope's Haven, clutching a worn leather briefcase to her chest. "I should have come forward sooner," she said, her voice breaking. "But Richard, he made threats. Not just to me, but to my family." Inside the briefcase lay the keys to unraveling Richard's elaborate web of lies, years of private correspondence, financial records, and most damning of all, Isabella's original medical records, unaltered and authenticated. He was obsessed with her, Martha explained, spreading the documents across Teresa's desk. Not with protecting her, as he claimed, but with controlling her. When Isabella discovered his embezzlement from the foundation, he began tampering with her medication. Not enough to kill her directly, but enough to weaken her, to make her appear unstable. Alexander sat heavily in a nearby chair, the weight of truth pressing on his chest. Why? Why go to such lengths? Because Isabella had proof of everything: his theft, his manipulation, even his involvement in your parents' financial ruin 20 years ago. Martha pulled out an old photograph, Richard and Alexander's father, shaking hands over what would prove to be a ruinous business deal. "He orchestrated your family's bankruptcy," Teresa realized, "to make sure you'd never be worthy of his sister." The girls, who had insisted on being present, absorbed this revelation with extraordinary composure. Helena, ever the analytical one, was already connecting the dots. "That's why he hates seeing us with Dad," she said. "We're proof that Isabella chose love over family status. We're everything he tried to prevent." Sophia added to the growing pile of evidence, pulling out her sketchbook. Over the past months, her drawings had captured scenes she couldn't possibly have witnessed: private conversations between Isabella and Richard, clandestine meetings, documents being hidden. "The butterfly lady showed me," she explained simply. "She wanted us to understand why Uncle Richard was so angry. It wasn't really about us. It was about love winning over hate." Clara, with her innate empathy, studied Richard's old photos. "He's lonely," she observed. "In every picture, even when he's smiling, his eyes are sad. He never learned how to love properly." The evidence Martha provided was irrefutable. Bank statements showed systematic theft from Isabella's foundation. Security footage captured Richard entering Isabella's hospital room late at night, tampering with her IV. Email exchanges revealed his elaborate plan to discredit Alexander after Isabella's death. Most shocking was Isabella's personal diary, which Martha had rescued from Richard's office shredder. The final entries painted a clear picture of a woman racing against time to protect both her legacy and the family she knew would form after her death. My dearest Alex, Isabella had written, "When you read this, the truth will finally be coming to light. Richard's darkness could never withstand the power of pure love. These girls are daughters, they're not just children who remind others of me. They're proof that love finds ways to endure, to grow, to create families that transcend traditional boundaries." Richard never understood that. He saw only what he could control, what he could prove or disprove. He never understood that the greatest mysteries of the heart need no explanation. As Martha's testimony spread, the tide began to turn. The Boston Globe, which had been so quick to condemn Alexander, now ran a front page expose on Richard's decades of manipulation and financial fraud. Former employees came forward with collaborating stories. The police reopened their investigation, this time focusing on Richard's role in Isabella's decline. But it was the videos that proved most powerful: Isabella's final messages, recorded secretly in her hospital room, detailing Richard's threats and her own plans to protect her future family. "The girls will come to you when the time is right," she had recorded, her voice weak but determined. "Each one carrying a piece of my heart, not through any scientific miracle, but through the mysterious ways love finds to perpetuate itself. Richard will try to twist this into something dark, something that needs to be studied or controlled. But love needs no explanation, Alex. It simply is." The community that had shunned them began to reach out. Apology letters flooded in. The school board reversed its decision. Former friends called, asking forgiveness for their doubt. Yet the family's reaction to their vindication surprised many. There was no gloating, no bitter recriminations. Instead, led by the girls' example, they responded with grace and understanding. "People were scared," Clara explained to her returning friends. "Fear makes people forget how to love properly. But love is patient. It waits for understanding to catch up." But Amelia celebrated by organizing a dance recital, inviting even those who had turned their backs on her. "Everyone deserves a chance to dance with joy," she said, twirling in her butterfly costume. Helena used her science club reinstatement to present a project on butterfly migration, drawing parallels to the journey of forgiveness and understanding. "And Sophia?" She painted. Canvas after canvas filled with images of transformation, dark cocoons breaking open to reveal light, storms parting to show rainbows, and always, everywhere, butterflies leading the way to hope. The truth had emerged, just as Isabella had promised it would. But its real power lay not in vindication but in transformation of a community learning to see beyond its fears, of a family growing stronger through adversity, of love proving itself more powerful than prejudice or doubt. In the Garden of Hope's Haven, where Isabella's butterfly bushes still bloomed out of season, Alexander watched his daughters teaching other children to paint, to dance, to dream. The truth had set them free, not just from Richard's lies, but from the need to explain or justify their unique family bond. She knew, Teresa said softly, joining him. She knew that truth wrapped in love would always find its way to light. Above them, a cloud of monarch butterflies passed overhead, migrating south for the winter. But one broke from the formation, circling once above the garden before landing on Sophia's newest painting, a family portrait, where Isabella's smile shone in each of her daughters' faces, and love needed no explanation at all. The for sale sign in front of the Morty mansion drew curious onlookers, sparking fresh rounds of gossip throughout Boston's elite social circles. Alexander watched from his study window as potential buyers toured the grounds where he and Isabella had once planned their future. "Are you sure about this, Dad?" Sophia asked, adding final touches to her latest painting, the mansion transformed into a butterfly, spreading its wings. "Some things are worth more than houses," Alexander replied, pulling her close. The decision to sell had come after learning of Richard's latest legal maneuver, a claim against Isabella's estate that threatened to drain their resources in endless court battles. The girls' trust fund and Hope's Haven needed protection more than they needed a mansion full of memories. Teresa sat at the antique desk, reviewing property listings. The cottage near Hope's Haven is perfect, she insisted. Close to the girls' school, walking distance to the art studio, and enough garden space for Isabella's butterflies. The move marked more than a change of address, it was a transformation of priorities. The designer furniture went to auction, the art collection to museums, the trappings of wealth traded for something far more precious: freedom to build their unique family without constant scrutiny. The cottage, though modest compared to the mansion, bloomed with new life. Each girl claimed a space to make her own. Helena converted the sunroom into a library, filling it with books Isabella had loved. Clara created a first aid station in the kitchen, always ready to tend to scraped knees and hurt feelings. Amelia turned the basement into a dance studio, its mirrors reflecting endless pirouettes. And Sophia? She painted butterflies everywhere, each one a different color, each one carrying a piece of their story. "Remember what the butterfly lady said," Sophia explained as she decorated their new home. "Sometimes you have to let go of the old wings to grow new ones." The community around Hope's Haven welcomed them differently than their old neighborhood had. Here, families understood love's various forms. Single parents, adoptive families, grandparents raising grandchildren, all recognized the strength in unconventional bonds. Alexander found himself transformed as well. The corporate warrior gave way to a father who knew the importance of butterfly kisses and bedtime stories. He learned to braid hair, to distinguish between different shades of pink, to understand that sometimes a heart needs bandaging more than a knee. One morning, as he prepared 4 different breakfast preferences, Helena insisted on whole grain. Clara needed protein, Amelia would only eat colorful food, and Sophia arranged everything into artistic patterns. Alexander found himself laughing at how complicated and perfect it all was. Isabella would love this chaos, Teresa commented, helping with lunch boxes. Her presence in their daily lives had become as natural as breathing. The cottage kitchen, with its mismatched chairs and crayon masterpieces on the fridge, echoed with the kind of joy the mansion's formal dining room never knew. Even the garden, though smaller, burst with more life. Isabella's butterfly bushes transplanted and thriving, surrounded by the girls' vegetable patches and flower experiments. "We're building something better than wealth," Helena observed one evening, looking up from her homework. "We're building a real home." The transformation extended beyond their family. Hope's Haven, under Teresa's guidance and Alexander's support, expanded its programs. The art therapy sessions Sophia helped lead brought healing to other children dealing with loss. Clara's gentle understanding created a peer counseling program. Elena's tutoring club helped struggling students find their confidence. And Amelia's dance classes taught others to express feelings too deep for words. Their new life wasn't without challenges. Richard's legal attacks continued, though with less effect now that their resources were protected. Some still questioned their family's legitimacy, but those voices grew fainter against the chorus of support from their new community. The cottage's walls, once stark white, slowly filled with photographs and artwork chronicling their journey. Sophia's paintings captured moments: big and small family dinners, homework sessions, garden adventures. Each image showed not just what they looked like, but what they meant to each other. One rainy Sunday, as the family cuddled on their worn but comfortable couch, Alexander found another letter from Isabella in the butterfly box. "My dearest family. If you're reading this, you've learned that home isn't about grand staircases or marble floors. It's about hearts finding their way to each other. The cottage I helped Teresa choose might seem small compared to the mansion, but it has everything you need: room for love to grow, space for butterflies to dance, and walls strong enough to hold all your dreams. Remember, my darlings, wealth isn't measured in bank accounts but in butterfly kisses and bedtime stories, in art on refrigerators and flowers in mismatched vases. You're building something more precious than any fortune. You're building a family shaped by choice, strengthened by challenges, and bound by love. Keep painting your stories, dancing your joy, sharing your wisdom, and healing others' hearts. That's the real legacy I wanted to leave, not money or property, but love that transforms and grows. Forever in your hearts. Isabella the Butterfly Lady. The girls, hearing the letter, responded in their unique ways. Sophia began sketching their cottage with butterfly wings. Helena researched the symbolism of butterflies in different cultures. Clara hugged everyone, absorbing and sharing their emotions. Amelia danced through the house, her movements telling their story. That evening, as Alexander tucked each girl into bed, he realized that letting go of the mansion had given them room to become who they truly were, not heirs to a fortune, but custodians of a legacy of love. In the garden, Isabella's butterflies danced among the flowers, their wings catching the last light of day. The cottage might have been smaller than their previous home, but it was large enough to hold their dreams, strong enough to weather any storm, and warm enough to nurture the most precious kind of wealth, a family bound by love rather than law. The Suffolk County Courthouse loomed before them, its stone columns casting long shadows in the early morning light. Alexander straightened Sophia's blue ribbon, Isabella's favorite color, as their family gathered on the steps for what promised to be the most challenging day yet. "Remember," Teresa whispered, "we're here to protect our family. Nothing Richard says can change who we are to each other." Inside courtroom 302, Judge Margaret Sullivan studied the stack of documents before her. The custody hearing had drawn unexpected attention. Reporters filled the back rows, while social workers and child advocates lined the walls. Richard's legal team struck first, led by the formidable Patricia Hawthorne. "Your Honor, we're dealing with an unprecedented situation," she began. 4 adoptions rushed through the system in Isabella Moretti's final days, when her mental capacity was questionable at best. The girls sat in the front row, their backs straight, hands clasped together. Clara winced at each harsh word, while Helena took careful notes. Amelia's feet tapped silent dance rhythms under her chair, her way of staying calm. Sophia sketched in her ever-present notebook, capturing the scene with unnerving accuracy. Furthermore, Hawthorne continued, "Mr. Moretti's sudden interest in these specific children raises serious concerns. Their uncanny resemblance to his late wife, their mysterious origins, the irregular adoption process." Alexander's lawyer, James Bennett, Sarah's husband and Isabella's longtime friend, rose to object. "Your Honor, every adoption was properly documented and legally executed. Mrs. Moretti was of sound mind, as her medical records clearly show." The morning unfolded in a battle of paperwork and testimonies. Social workers praised the girls' adjustment and Alexander's parenting. Child psychologists confirmed their emotional well-being. Even their new neighbors from near the cottage came forward, describing a loving family unit. But Richard had saved his most devastating move for last. "Your Honor," Hawthorne announced, "we call Sophia Moretti to the stand." The courtroom tensed. Alexander half rose, but Sophia squeezed his hand. "It's okay, Dad," she whispered. "The Butterfly Lady said we'd have to be brave today." On the witness stand, Sophia looked tiny but composed. Her blue dress and ribbon made her look even more like Isabella, a fact Hawthorne quickly exploited. "Sophia, tell us about your dreams of the Butterfly Lady." "I dream about Isabella," Sophia replied simply. "She shows me things, how to mix colors, how to see light in shadows, how to love people who are hurting." "And these dreams, they're why you paint so much like Mrs. Moretti, why you share her mannerisms?" Sophia's answer surprised everyone. "I paint like me," she said firmly. "Sometimes it looks like her work because love sees things the same way." Clara hugs like her because they both know how hearts need holding. Helena reads like her because they both love finding answers. Amelia dances like her because joy moves the same in every body. But you never met Isabella Moetti Hawthorne pressed. These similarities. Love doesn't need meeting, Sophia interrupted, her voice clear. It finds its own way to connect hearts. That's what family means. During the lunch recess, Alexander found another letter from Isabella in the butterfly box, this one addressed to Judge Sullivan. His hands shook as he handed it to James. The afternoon session began with the letter's contents. Isabella's words filled the courtroom. Dear Judge Sullivan, by the time this reaches you, my brother Richard will have turned my greatest act of love into something that needs legal defense. He never understood that family isn't about blood or DNA or scientific explanations. These 4 girls, they're not experiments or replacements. They're children who needed love, who by some miracle carried echoes of my heart in theirs. I found them through my work with international orphanages, each one touching my soul in ways I couldn't explain but knew were real. Richard will try to make their adoption seem suspicious. He'll question my mental state, Alexander's motives, the legal process. But the truth is, simple love found a way to create the family I always dreamed of having with Alexander. I'm leaving you proof of everything: my search for the girls, the legal adoptions, the trust funds established for their care. But more importantly, I'm leaving you this truth: family is not about matching DNA or passing psychological evaluations. It's about hearts recognizing their own kind. Please protect them. Not because they remind others of me, but because they deserve the chance to become themselves in a home filled with love, with hope and trust. Isabella Moetti. The letter shifted the courtroom's atmosphere. Judge Sullivan called the girls forward, speaking to each one privately in her chambers. When they returned, their faces shone with quiet confidence. Richard made one final attempt, approaching the bench with medical experts ready to testify about genetic impossibilities and psychological implications. But Judge Sullivan held up her hand. Mr. Mitchell, she said firmly, this court is not here to investigate coincidences or validate scientific theories. We're here to determine what's best for 4 young girls who have found a loving home. Her ruling came swiftly and decisively. The adoptions were valid. Alexander's custody was confirmed. Richard's claims were dismissed with prejudice. But it was her closing statement that brought tears to many eyes. In my years on the bench, I've seen countless families torn apart by blood relatives fighting over legal rights. Today I've seen 4 children and a grieving father build something extraordinary. A family bound not by genetics but by choice, understanding, and love. Isabella Moetti's legacy isn't just in these girls' mannerisms or talents, it's in their capacity to love and be loved. This court finds that there is no stronger foundation for a family than that. Outside the courthouse, butterflies danced around the family as reporters snapped pictures. Sophia had already begun sketching the scene justice, wearing butterfly wings, scales balanced with hearts instead of weights. Is it really over? Clara asked, hugging Alexander tight. This part is, he answered, gathering all his daughters close. Now we get to focus on just being a family. Teresa smiled through her tears. Isabella would be so proud of all of you. As they walked down the courthouse steps, Amelia began to dance, her movements full of joy and freedom. One by one, her sisters joined her, their impromptu celebration drawing smiles from passers-by. Alexander watched his daughters dance, seeing in their happiness the true verdict of the day: love had won, not in legal arguments or documented proof, but in the simple truth of hearts finding their way home. Spring arrived at the cottage with an explosion of color. Isabella's butterfly bushes had multiplied, spreading their fragrant blooms across the once modest garden. Inside, the house hummed with the comfortable rhythms of family life, a transformation as profound as the changing seasons. Alexander sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by 4 different homework assignments, each reflecting the unique personality of its owner. Helena's advanced mathematics competed for space with Clara's social studies project on community helpers. Amelia's dance recital schedule hung next to Sophia's latest art show flyer. Dad Helena called from behind her textbook. "Did you know Isabella won the state science fair when she was my age? Her project was about butterfly migration patterns affecting plant pollination." Alexander smiled, remembering Isabella's passion for connecting art and science. She believed everything in nature was connected by invisible threads of purpose. "Like us," Sophia added, not looking up from her sketchbook. "We're all connected by love threads. I can see them when I paint." The personal growth of each family member had become evident in unexpected ways. Helena, once shy about her intelligence, now led her school's science club with quiet confidence. Clara's natural empathy had evolved into a peer counseling program she ran during lunch breaks. Amelia taught dance to younger children at Hope's Haven, while Sophia's art therapy sessions helped other kids process their emotions through painting. But perhaps the most profound transformation was in Alexander himself. The corporate titan who once measured success in profit margins now found his greatest achievements in small moments, mastering the perfect French braid, knowing exactly how each daughter liked her hot chocolate, understanding the different types of silence that needed either space or hugs. Teresa, who had become an integral part of their daily lives, watched this evolution with knowing eyes. "Isabella would love seeing you like this," she said one evening, as Alexander helped Sophia mix exactly the right shade of butterfly wing blue. "You've become the father she always knew you could be." The girls' individual journeys of self-discovery brought both challenges and triumphs. Helena struggled with the weight of her intellectual gifts, often feeling different from her peers. One afternoon, Alexander found her crying over a perfect test score. "Why can't I just be normal?" she sobbed. "Your mother once asked the same question," he revealed, pulling out one of Isabella's old journals. "Look what she wrote. Being different isn't a burden, it's a gift, waiting to be understood." Clara's empathy sometimes overwhelmed her. She felt everything so deeply that other children's pain became her own. Through working with Teresa, she learned to channel this sensitivity into healing rather than hurting. Amelia's dancing evolved from simple expression to storytelling. She choreographed pieces that told their family's journey, each movement a word in the language of love. "When I dance," she explained, "I can feel the butterfly lady dancing with me." Sophia's art underwent the most visible transformation. Her paintings, once simple copies of Isabella's style, developed their own unique voice while maintaining that essential connection to love and hope. Her first solo exhibition at Hope's Haven drew unexpected attention from the art world. "She captures emotion like Isabella did," one critic wrote, "but through her own distinct lens of childhood wisdom and inherited grace." The cottage itself reflected their growth. Walls that started bare now told their story in photos, artwork, dance ribbons, and science fair medals. The garden blazed with experiments: Helena's butterfly research station, Clara's healing herbs, Amelia's dance practice space, and Sophia's outdoor painting nook. One Saturday morning, Alexander found another letter from Isabella in the butterfly box. "My beloved family, watching you grow into yourselves brings me more joy than you can imagine. Each of you is becoming exactly who you were meant to be, not copies or replacements, but unique souls connected by love's mysterious threads. Helena, your brilliant mind sees patterns that others miss, just as I did. Don't dim your light to make others comfortable. The world needs your kind of seeing. Clara, your heart feels the world so deeply. Remember that empathy is strength, not weakness. You're learning what I had to learn, that helping others heal helps you grow stronger too. Amelia, keep dancing your truth. Every movement tells a story, and yours is one of joy overcoming sorrow, of love finding new ways to express itself. Sophia, paint your own visions. The techniques I left you are just tools. Your heart knows what colors to use to show the world how love looks through your eyes. And Alex, my love, seeing you become this extraordinary father fills me with such pride. You've learned that strength isn't about control or success, it's about being soft enough to hold others' hearts gently. Teresa, my dear sister, thank you for helping our family find its wings. Your presence completes the circle of love I dreamed of creating. Remember, butterflies don't emerge from their chrysalis fully formed. They need time to strengthen their wings. Each struggle, each challenge, each moment of doubt is part of your beautiful transformation. Keep growing, keep loving, keep becoming. Forever in your hearts. Isabella. That evening, as the family gathered for their weekly movie night, Alexander looked at each face illuminated by the soft light and saw not just echoes of Isabella, but unique individuals growing into their own kind of beautiful. Helena curled up with her physics book, making notes about light refraction in butterfly wings. Clara arranged everyone's favorite snacks, intuitively knowing what each person needed. Amelia sat cross-legged on the floor, her body swaying slightly to music only she could hear. Sophia sketched the scene, capturing not just their appearances but the invisible threads of love connecting them all. Teresa caught Alexander's eye and smiled, understanding passing between them. They had all grown into something more than anyone could have predicted, not a replacement family, but a new kind of miracle, where love found ways to echo through generations while allowing each heart to beat its own unique rhythm. Outside, the butterfly bushes rustled in the evening breeze, their blooms catching the last light of day. Inside, a family continued their journey of becoming, each member growing not into someone else's shadow, but into their own light, connected by the endless threads of love that Isabella had woven between their hearts. The first sign of trouble came in a seemingly innocent envelope from the Department of Child Services. Alexander read the letter twice at the kitchen table, his coffee growing cold beside him as the implications sank in. They want to conduct a new investigation, he told Teresa, who had rushed over after his urgent call. According to this, there have been concerning reports about the girl's psychological well-being. Teresa's face darkened as she scanned the document. Richard, it has to be. Look at the filing date, just one day after his release from prison. Richard Mitchell had served 18 months for financial fraud and medical tampering in Isabella's case. Now, apparently he was wasting no time in resuming his campaign against their family. Dad Sophia appeared in the doorway, her sketchbook clutched to her chest. I drew something last night. I think you need to see it. The drawing showed darkening clouds gathering over Hope's Haven, with shadows reaching toward their cottage. But in the center, 4 butterflies circled protectively around a group of smaller figures, other children. He's not just coming after us anymore, Helena said, joining them. She adjusted her glasses, Isabella's gesture bringing a familiar ache to Alexander's heart. He's targeting all of Hope's Haven. Their fears proved correct. Within days, Hope's Haven received notice of a comprehensive audit. Anonymous complaints flooded the licensing board. Potential donors began withdrawing their support, citing concerns about operational practices. He's trying to destroy everything Isabella built, Teresa said during an emergency board meeting. Not just our family, but her entire legacy of helping children. The attack was methodical and multi-pronged. Richard, using his connections and remaining wealth, began purchasing properties around Hope's Haven, slowly encircling the safe haven Isabella had created. Development notices appeared, threatening to transform the peaceful neighborhood into high-rise apartments. How can he do this, Clara asked, her natural empathy struggling to comprehend such calculated cruelty. Doesn't he care about the children who need this place? But Richard's most devastating move targeted the heart of their family. Through a series of shell companies, he began acquiring shares in the trust Isabella had established for the girls' care. If he gained control, he could dictate every aspect of their lives, where they lived, what schools they attended, even their access to Isabella's art and personal belongings. He's trying to erase her, Amelia observed, her usual dance-like movement stilled by worry. Not just from our lives, but from everyone's memory. The pressure mounted. Other families at Hope's Haven began receiving offers substantial financial incentives to withdraw their children and discredit the institution. Some, facing their own struggles, reluctantly accepted. Alexander watched his daughters handle the crisis with remarkable grace. Sophia organized an art show celebrating Hope's Haven's impact on children's lives. Helena created a presentation documenting the institution's successful placement rates. Clara started a support group for worried families, while Amelia choreographed a dance performance that told their story of love transcending adversity. But late at night, when they thought he couldn't hear, Alexander caught the sounds of their private fears. Sophia's muffled sobs as she painted through nightmares. Helena's frustrated pacing as she tried to logic her way through emotional pain. Clara's quiet prayers for strength to help others while her own heart ached. Amelia's silent dancing, her movements heavy with worry. Then came Richard's masterstroke, a petition for emergency guardianship of all 4 girls, citing extraordinary circumstances and psychological manipulation. He claims we're being influenced to imitate Isabella. Helena explained, reading the legal documents with precocious understanding, that our similarities to her are the result of conditioning. The implications were staggering. If Richard succeeded, he could separate the girls not just from Alexander, but from each other. His plan included individual rehabilitation programs at separate facilities. "He wants to break us," Sophia whispered, adding storm clouds to her latest painting. "Not just apart from each other, but from who we are." Teresa arrived with yet another envelope from the butterfly box, Isabella's guidance reaching across time once again. My beloved family. If you're reading this, Richard has made his final move against everything we hold dear. He never understood that love can't be controlled or erased. It finds new ways to flourish, even in the darkest shadows. The girls will know what to do. They carry not just echoes of my heart, but their own wisdom. Trust them, Alex. Their love is stronger than Richard's hate. And remember, butterflies emerge stronger after the storm. Always with you. Isabella. That evening, as thunder rolled in the distance, the family gathered in their living room. The girls, instead of showing fear, displayed a quiet determination that reminded Alexander powerfully of their mother. "We need to show everyone," Sophia said, revealing a new series of paintings. "Not just tell them, but show them what real family means." "The truth about Uncle Richard too," Clara added. "Not to hurt him, but to help others understand why he fights so hard against love." "We'll need everyone's help," Helena calculated. "All the families we've helped, all the children who found hope here. And we'll tell our story through art," Amelia suggested, already moving to music only she could hear, through dance, through paintings, through hearts connecting. Alexander looked at his daughters, these extraordinary children who carried Isabella's spirit while blazing their own paths. Richard might have money and influence, but he had never understood the one thing Isabella knew above all else: love, when given room to grow, finds ways to protect its own. Outside, the storm gathered strength, but inside their home, a different kind of power was building. Not the force of Richard's wealth or threats, but the quiet strength of love choosing its own family, of hearts recognizing their true home. The battle for Hope's Haven and for their family's soul was about to begin. Hope comes in unexpected ways. For the Moetti family, it arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning when Mrs. Chen, who ran the local bakery, marched into Hope's Haven with a petition signed by every business owner on Maple Street. "We won't let them shut you down," she declared, setting down boxes of still warm cookies. "Isabella helped my daughter find her voice through art therapy. Now my Emily's teaching art at the community college. This place, it's sacred ground." The ripple effect began slowly, then gained momentum like a wave. Former Hope's Haven children, now adults, began sharing their stories online. Videos went viral. Successful professionals, artists, teachers, all testifying to how Isabella's vision had transformed their lives. I was angry, lost, convinced no one could love me. A prominent surgeon's video garnered millions of views. Then Isabella taught me to paint butterflies. She said every chrysalis holds a miracle, just waiting for the right moment to emerge. Hope's Haven was my chrysalis. The girls watched in amazement as their community mobilized. Helena's Science Club launched a research project documenting Hope's Haven's impact on children's development. The results were staggering: higher graduation rates, better emotional adjustment, stronger family bonds. Clara's peer support group expanded beyond the Haven's walls. Local schools adopted her program, creating a network of young people trained to help others through difficult times. "We're all connected," she explained to a reporter. Just like the butterfly effect, one small act of kindness can change everything. Amelia's dance students organized a flash mob in front of Richard's office building. Dozens of children, each wearing butterfly wings, performed a piece she choreographed about transformation and hope. The video went viral, catching media attention. But it was Sophia's art exhibition that truly turned the tide. Hearts Finding Home opened at the local gallery, featuring portraits of every child who had found healing at Hope's Haven. Each painting captured not just faces, but moments of transformation, the exact instant when a hurt child discovered they were worthy of love. "I paint what Isabella taught us to see," Sophia told the crowd at the opening. "Not just people's outsides, but the light inside them, waiting to shine." The exhibition included a special wall dedicated to Richard, not condemning him, but showing him as a child in old family photographs, always standing apart, never quite connecting. Sophia's paintings captured his isolation, his desperate need for control, the sadness behind his anger. "Uncle Richard needs Hope's Haven too," Clara observed softly. "He just doesn't know it yet." Local businesses began displaying butterfly symbols in their windows, a quiet sign of solidarity. When Richard's developers arrived to survey the properties he'd purchased, they found the community united against them. Zoning board meetings filled with residents defending their neighborhood's character. Legal firms offered pro bono services to fight the development plans. The trust Isabella had established for the girls received an unexpected ally when Sarah Bennett discovered a network of other parents whose children shared unusual connections to lost loved ones. They came forward with their stories, proving that love's mysteries couldn't be explained away by Richard's accusations of manipulation. "Our daughter has her grandmother's gift for music," one mother testified. "Never met her, but plays the same rare Hungarian folk songs. Some things can't be taught or forced, they're passed through hearts, not blood." Teachers from the girls' schools submitted letters describing not exploitation, but extraordinary resilience and empathy. Their art teacher wrote about Sophia's unique ability to help other children express their feelings through painting. The dance instructor detailed how Amelia's classes helped injured students regain confidence. Helena's science teachers praised her peer tutoring program, while Clara's counselor described her natural gift for healing emotional wounds. Even Richard's former employees began speaking out. His housekeeper revealed his obsession with controlling Isabella's legacy, the shrine-like room where he kept surveillance photos of the girls. His driver testified about late-night visits to Hope's Haven, watching the children from a distance. "He's not evil," Alexander told reporters when asked about these revelations. "He's someone who never learned that love can't be controlled or contained. It has to be free to find its own way." The Department of Child Services, faced with overwhelming community support, closed their investigation. Their report specifically cited the extraordinary emotional health and stability of the Moetti girls, praising the unique family bond they shared. Local artists painted murals of butterflies on buildings surrounding Hope's Haven. Children from across the city added their own artwork, turning the neighborhood into a living gallery of hope and transformation. The message was clear: this community would protect its heart. One morning, Alexander found all 4 girls in the garden, surrounded by actual butterflies drawn to Isabella's blooming bushes. Sophia was painting the scene, while Helena documented the species. Clara tended to a butterfly with a damaged wing, and Amelia danced among them, her movements matching their flight. "The butterfly lady was right," Sophia said, adding final touches to her painting. "Love always finds more love." Teresa arrived with another letter from the butterfly box, this one addressed to the community. Dear friends, if you're reading this, you've discovered what I always knew, that love is strongest when it's shared. Hope's Haven isn't just a place, it's a promise that healing is possible, that family can be found in unexpected hearts, that butterflies emerge from the darkest cocoons. Thank you for protecting this promise. Thank you for showing my brother that control and power can't match the strength of hearts choosing to love. Keep sharing your light. Keep helping others find their wings. With eternal gratitude. Isabella. That evening, as sunset painted the sky in colors even Sophia struggled to capture, hundreds of people gathered around Hope's Haven. They carried candles and butterfly wings, standing silent vigil against the shadows Richard's hate had tried to cast. Looking at his daughters among the crowd, Sophia sketching the scene, Helena explaining butterfly migration patterns to younger children, Clara comforting a nervous toddler, Amelia leading others in a dance of joy, Alexander finally understood Isabella's deepest wisdom. Love, when given room to grow, creates its own kind of magic. Not the false magic of control and manipulation that Richard sought, but the true miracle of hearts finding their way home to each other. The community had chosen love over fear, hope over doubt, transformation over stagnation. In doing so, they hadn't just saved Hope's Haven, they'd proven Isabella's belief that family isn't about blood or laws or control. It's about hearts recognizing their own kind, about love finding new ways to fly. In Isabella's garden behind the cottage, Alexander found Sophia sitting alone among the butterfly bushes, her sketchbook untouched beside her. The look on her face, so much like Isabella's when wrestling with difficult truths, made his heart ache. "They want us to choose," she said without looking up. "Uncle Richard's lawyers. They say we're old enough to decide where we want to live." It was Richard's latest strategy, trying to divide the family by forcing each girl to make an impossible choice. The court papers had arrived that morning, requesting individual custody hearings for each child. Inside the cottage, the strain showed in different ways. Helena had buried herself in legal documents, searching for loopholes with desperate intensity. Clara, always the empath, physically flinched whenever anyone mentioned separation. Amelia hadn't danced in days. "We're not just fighting for Hope's Haven anymore," Teresa observed, watching the girls through the kitchen window. "We're fighting for their souls." Richard's offer was cleverly crafted. For Helena, he promised unlimited educational opportunities, private tutors, advanced programs, anything her brilliant mind desired. Clara was offered a chance to help establish a new children's charity, one with greater resources than Hope's Haven. Amelia would have access to world-class dance training, while Sophia was promised her own art studio and exhibitions in major galleries. "He's trying to buy us with pieces of our dreams," Helena said bitterly, pushing away another glossy brochure. "As if we could be happy having everything we want but losing everything we love." The personal cost became evident in small moments. Sophia stopped painting butterflies, her artwork turning dark and stormy. Helena's perfect grades began to slip as she spent nights researching legal precedents instead of studying. Clara took on everyone's pain until she made herself physically ill. Amelia's dance movements became sharp, angry, losing their natural grace. "I don't want to choose," Clara whispered one night, crawling into Alexander's bed like she used to when first adopted. "We can't be us without each other." Alexander held her, remembering how Isabella used to comfort him through difficult decisions. Sometimes he said softly, "The hardest choice is staying true to who you are when the world tries to make you something else." The pressure mounted as the custody hearings approached. Richard's lawyers arranged casual meetings with each girl, presenting increasingly tempting offers. Helena came home from one such meeting in tears. "He has mother's research journals," she sobbed. "All her scientific papers, her notes, everything I've wanted to read," he says. "He says I can have them if I choose him." Sophia hadn't spoken for 2 days after her meeting. When she finally broke her silence, it was to reveal something that shook them all. "He has her last painting," she said during family dinner. "The one she never finished. He says he'll let me complete it." Teresa reached for another letter from the butterfly box, but found it empty. For the first time, Isabella's guidance wasn't there to light their way. Then Amelia did something unexpected. She began to dance. Not her usual joyful movements, but something new, a dance that spoke of choices and consequences, of love and loss, of 4 hearts beating as one. One by one, her sisters joined her. Sophia sketched their movements, Helena analyzed their patterns, Clara felt their emotions. In that moment of spontaneous unity, they found their answer. "We choose us," they declared together. The next morning, instead of attending another meeting with Richard's lawyers, the girls worked together on a different kind of response. Sophia painted their family story, not just the happy moments, but the struggles, the fears, the love that held them together. Helena wrote their legal declaration, citing precedents about children's rights to maintain sibling bonds. Clara composed a letter to Richard himself, expressing not anger but understanding of his pain. Amelia choreographed a piece they would perform at the custody hearing. "If he wants to separate us," Sophia explained, putting final touches on her painting, "he needs to understand exactly what he's trying to break." Alexander watched his daughter's strength with pride and worry. The stakes were devastatingly personal, not just their family's future, but the very essence of who these children were becoming. Teresa found them all asleep in the living room that night, huddled together like butterflies sheltering from a storm. On the coffee table lay their unified response to the court. "We, the Moretti sisters, choose to remain together. We choose the father who taught us love doesn't need blood to be real. We choose the home where we can be ourselves while supporting each other. We choose the legacy of a mother who believed family is about hearts finding their way to each other. We choose love over privilege, unity over individual gain, truth over temptation. We choose us." Each girl had signed it, Sophia with a tiny butterfly, Helena with perfect penmanship, Clara with a heart, Amelia with a musical note. The next morning brought another challenge. Richard had arranged press interviews, planning to paint their refusal as evidence of manipulation. But when reporters arrived at Hope's Haven, they found something unexpected. The girls had transformed the garden into a living testimony. Sophia's paintings told their story from 4 perspectives, showing how their differences made them stronger together. Helena's research demonstrated the psychological importance of sibling bonds in adopted families. Clara had organized other Hope's Haven children to speak about chosen families and unbreakable connections. Amelia led them all in a dance that brought tears to even the most cynical eyes. "You can't separate butterflies from their garden," Sophia told the cameras. "You can't divide love into pieces and expect it to survive." That evening, as Alexander tucked each daughter into bed, he found himself wondering if Isabella had known it would come to this. Had she foreseen these challenges when she brought these particular souls together? The answer came not in words but in the sight of 4 sleeping faces, each bearing a trace of Isabella's spirit, while blazing their own unique path. They had chosen love over advantage, family over fortune, truth over temptation. In the garden, Isabella's butterflies danced in the moonlight, their wings catching silver gleams like promises kept, like love finding its way home again and again. The courthouse steps felt colder this time, the February wind cutting through their coats as the Motti family faced the crowd of reporters. Judge Sullivan's ruling still echoed in their ears, devastating in its finality. Given the extraordinary circumstances and concerning evidence presented, This court has no choice but to temporarily suspend Mr. Moetti's custody rights pending a full investigation. The children will be placed in separate foster homes for their own protection. Alexander couldn't finish the thought. Beside him, his daughters stood frozen in their own private grief. Sophia's sketchbook hung limply at her side, its pages closed for the first time since he'd known her. Helena's glasses fobbed with unshed tears as she clutched her research notes, all her logical arguments rendered useless. Clara, always the strongest in emotional crises, seemed to physically shrink under the weight of their collective pain. Amelia's usual dancer's grace had abandoned her, leaving her movements sharp and uncertain. But Richard's evidence had been masterfully crafted. Photos of the girls' remarkable similarities to Isabella, presented as proof of psychological conditioning expert testimonies, suggesting their unique talents were the result of intensive training rather than natural ability. Financial records implying Alexander had used Isabella's foundation money to create this family. The children will be transferred to their temporary homes tomorrow morning, the social worker explained, her voice professionally detached. They'll be allowed supervised phone calls after a 2-week adjustment period. 2 weeks. 14 days without seeing each other, without their morning ritual of Sophia's pancake art and Helena's science facts, without Clara's healing hugs and Amelia's spontaneous dance performances. 2 weeks that felt like an eternity. Back at the cottage, they faced their last evening together with quiet desperation. No one mentioned the packed bags by the door, each containing the few personal items they were allowed to take. Sophia's art supplies had been deemed potentially triggering and would remain behind. Helena's beloved science journals, too reminiscent of Isabella's research. Clara's collection of family photos. Amelia's dance ribbons. "It's not forever," Teresa tried to reassure them, her own voice breaking. "We'll appeal, we'll fight." But the defeat felt absolute. Richard's lawyers had effectively argued that the girls' extraordinary bonds with each other and their similarities to Isabella were signs of manipulation rather than love. Even their unified refusal to be separated was presented as evidence of unhealthy codependency. Dinner went untouched. Instead, they gathered in the living room, surrounded by the life they'd built together. Sophia's paintings covered the walls, their family story told in colors and light. Helena's science fair medals hung beside Clara's peer counseling certificates and Amelia's dance trophies. Every surface held memories of love found, of hearts choosing each other. "Can we sleep here tonight?" Clara asked softly. "All together, one last time." Alexander helped them build a nest of blankets and pillows on the floor, just as they had during their first weeks as a family. Each girl found her place in their familiar pattern, Sophia curled against his left side, Helena on his right, Clara and Amelia completing the circle. "Tell us about the day you found us," Amelia whispered, a request they'd heard countless times before. Tonight it carried new weight. "I was walking home from work," Alexander began, his voice rough with emotion. "The leaves were turning gold, just like Isabella loved. And there you were, playing hopscotch outside Hope's Haven." The story continued, each girl adding her memories, their voices growing heavier with sleep and sorrow. Eventually silence fell, broken only by quiet breathing and occasional sniffles. Alexander remained awake, memorizing every detail. The way Sophia's hand clutched her last blank sketchbook. Helena's glasses folded carefully beside her. Clara's arm protectively draped over her sister's. Amelia's feet still moving slightly in unconscious dance rhythms. Morning arrived too soon. The social workers were punctual, their government cars lined up outside like a funeral procession. Each girl would be taken to a different part of the state to ensure proper separation and individual development the court had ruled. Sophia approached her designated car first, her face set in an expression so like Isabella's when facing impossible odds. She pressed a folded paper into Alexander's hand. "Don't look until we're gone," she whispered. Helena went next, her scientific composure cracking as she hugged each sister goodbye. The average butterfly chrysalis lasts 10 to 14 days, she recited through tears, clinging to facts as comfort. Clara's empathy nearly broke her as she absorbed everyone's pain. Love doesn't need daily proof to stay real, she reminded them, words Isabella had often used. Amelia was last, her final dance step faltering as she reached her car. The butterfly lady promised, she said. She promised love finds a way. Alexander stood with Teresa, watching 4 separate cars take his heart in different directions. Only then did he unfold Sophia's paper. It was a sketch of their family, but not as they were. Instead, she had drawn them as they would be reunited, stronger, their bonds unbroken by distance or decree. In the corner, she had written Isabella's words, sometimes love needs to weather a storm to prove how strong its wings have grown. The cottage felt impossibly empty. Alexander moved through silent rooms where laughter had lived just hours before. Every space held ghosts of happiness: Sophia's easel in the corner, Helena's books stacked neatly on shelves, Clara's healing crystal collection catching morning light, Amelia's ballet shoes by the door. But something else caught his eye: a single butterfly, impossibly early for the season, landing on Isabella's favorite rose bush. As he watched, it was joined by another, then 2 more, their wings catching sunlight, like hope refusing to die. 2 weeks stretched into a month. A month became 2. Spring arrived at the empty cottage, Isabella's butterfly bushes blooming for no one. Alexander moved through his days like a ghost, the silence of the house a physical weight on his shoulders. The supervised phone calls were almost worse than no contact at all. Each girl's voice sounded smaller, more distant, stripped of their natural vibrancy. Sophia had stopped painting entirely. Helena's perfect grades were slipping. Clara's new foster parents reported she barely spoke. Amelia hadn't danced since the separation. They're adjusting, the social workers insisted. Learning to develop as individuals. But Alexander saw what they refused to acknowledge: 4 lights slowly dimming, 4 hearts struggling to beat out of sync. The darkness reached its peak on a rainy Sunday morning. Alexander sat in Sophia's art room, surrounded by her abandoned paintings. A half-finished butterfly hung on the easel, its wings frozen mid-stroke. The morning light caught dust gathering on Helena's microscope, Clara's collection of healing stones, Amelia's ballet shoes. Teresa found him there, staring at a family photo taken just months ago. The appeal was denied, she said softly. They're extending the separation period another 3 months. Something broke inside Alexander. All the careful control, the diplomatic responses, the patient compliance with the court's demands, it shattered like glass. How do they not see what they're doing? His voice cracked. They're killing Isabella all over again, piece by piece. The weekly reports from the foster homes painted a clinical picture of his daughter's decline. Sophia's new family wrote that she showed decreased emotional engagement and resistance to artistic expression. Helena's foster parents noted her withdrawal from academic pursuits and excessive focus on butterfly migration patterns. Clara's empathy, once her strength, had turned inward. She spent hours in her new room, refusing to connect with anyone. Amelia's dance teacher reported she would come to class but stand motionless, as if she'd forgotten how to move to music. Even Hope's Haven felt the absence of their light. The other children moved quietly through halls once filled with Sophia's art classes, Helena's science experiments, Clara's comfort corners, and Amelia's dance lessons. Richard's victory seemed complete. He had succeeded in not just separating the family, but in dimming the very qualities that made each girl special. His weekly visits to each foster home, bearing expensive gifts and empty promises, only deepened the wounds. He sits there smugly, Helena reported during one monitored call, talking about proper development and healthy boundaries, as if breaking us apart could make us normal. The darkest moment came during a court-mandated family therapy session. Seeing his daughters together for the first time in months should have been joyful. Instead, it was like watching butterflies with clipped wings trying to remember how to fly. Sophia sat with her sketchbook closed, hands folded in her lap. Helena's usual scientific observations had given way to hollow silence. Clara, who once carried everyone's emotions, seemed unable to feel anything at all. Amelia's stillness felt like a physical accusation against the world that had stolen her dance. The therapist, hand-picked by Richard's team, spoke about healthy separation and individual identity development, but Alexander saw only the shadows under his children's eyes, the way they kept glancing at each other like parts of a whole struggling to remember how they fit together. "Tell me about your new homes," the therapist prompted. Silence stretched between them like a chasm. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "They're not homes. They're just places we sleep." "And how are you pursuing your interests?" Helena's laugh was bitter, so unlike her usual self. "Our interests? You mean the parts of us you're trying to erase?" "No one is trying to erase anything," the therapist assured them. "We're helping you develop independently." "You can't develop half a heart," Clara said softly. "Or quarter it into pieces and expect it to keep beating." Amelia, who hadn't spoken the entire session, suddenly stood. For a moment it seemed she might finally dance. Instead, she walked to the window and pressed her hand against the glass. "The butterfly lady is crying," she said. "I can feel her tears in the rain." The session ended early, deemed unproductive by the therapist. Watching his daughters being led back to their separate cars, Alexander felt something shift inside him. This wasn't development or protection or any of the other clinical terms they used. This was soul death, happening in slow motion. Back at the cottage, he found Teresa in Isabella's garden. The butterfly bushes, once vibrant with life, had begun to wilt. "Plants can die from loneliness too," Teresa said, touching a drooping bloom. "Isabella used to say everything in nature needs its proper family to thrive." Alexander picked up a fallen butterfly wing, its colors faded. "We're losing them," he whispered. "Not just to distance or time, but to this twisted idea that love needs to be controlled and measured and separated into acceptable pieces." The rain fell harder, soaking them both as they stood among Isabella's dying garden. Everything they had built together, the trust, the healing, the joy, seemed to be washing away, leaving only the hollow echo of what their family had been. In the empty art room, Sophia's last sketch still hung on the wall, their family whole and happy, surrounded by butterflies in flight. Now it felt like a dream they had all shared, fading in the harsh light of separation and clinical judgment. But even in this darkest moment, something stirred. A single butterfly, defying the rain, landed on Isabella's favorite rose. As they watched, it was joined by another, then two more. 4 butterflies dancing together in the storm, refusing to be separated by wind or rain or human decree. Nature, it seemed, had its own opinion about what made a proper family. Hope arrived in the form of a butterfly drawn in the margin of Helena's physics homework. Her foster parents had sent it to the social worker, concerned about her continued fixation, but when Alexander saw it during his weekly review of their school progress, his heart stopped. It wasn't just any butterfly. It was drawn in Sophia's distinctive style, though Sophia was 3 counties away. Beneath it, in Helena's precise handwriting, was a quote, "Love always finds a way to fly." "Look at the date," Teresa said, examining the paper. All 4 girls drew butterflies in their schoolwork on the same day, at the same time. They began noticing other patterns. Clara's new counselor reported she spent exactly 12 minutes each morning facing east, the direction of the cottage. Amelia's foster mother mentioned she would wake at dawn to stand in the garden as if listening for distant music. Then came Sophia's art therapy session. Asked to paint her feelings, she created 4 interlocking circles, each containing a piece of a butterfly. The next day, in different cities, her sisters created matching pieces in their own ways. Helena through a mathematical equation, Clara through a poem, Amelia through a sequence of dance steps. They're still connected, Alexander realized, not just by memory or habit, but by something deeper. The evidence of their hidden strength began to multiply. Each girl, in her own way, kept their family's heart beating. Sophia started an art club at her new school, teaching other children to find beauty in broken things. Helena tutored struggling students, sharing Isabella's gift for making complex things simple. Clara created a lunch group for lonely classmates. Amelia taught simple dance moves to children with mobility challenges. They were doing more than surviving, they were spreading Isabella's legacy of love and healing, even in separation. During their monitored phone calls, they developed a code. Casual mentions of butterflies carried hidden meanings. The monarchs are migrating early this year meant I'm finding a way home. The chrysalis is ready, translated to hold on. We have a plan. Alexander and Teresa watched, waiting, trusting in the strength they saw building beneath the surface of apparent compliance. The breakthrough came during a routine visit from Richard. He found each girl seemingly accepted into their new environments, excelling in approved ways. His reports to the court painted a picture of successful rehabilitation. What he didn't see was Sophia's new paintings, hidden beneath landscapes, messages in color and light that only her sisters could read. He missed Helena's scientific journals, filled with coded coordinates and timing calculations. Clara's empathy had evolved into an underground network of support among foster children. Amelia's still movements concealed choreographed plans. Then came the day of Richard's grand announcement. He had arranged a press conference to showcase the success of his intervention. Each girl would demonstrate their healthy individual development. The event was held at Hope's Haven, a calculated move to prove his victory over Isabella's legacy. Reporters filled the garden where butterflies once danced. Richard stood at the podium, smiling, his camera a ready smile. Today we celebrate 4 young girls finding their true selves, he began, free from unhealthy influences and manufactured similarities. That's when it happened. Sophia, called to display her appropriate art, unveiled a painting that made the audience gasp. It showed not the approved landscape she practiced, but their family story: 4 butterflies emerging from a single chrysalis, their wings carrying pieces of Isabella's last unfinished work. Helena, instead of reciting her academic achievements, presented a scientific study on how butterflies navigate home across impossible distances. Clara stood and began connecting children in the audience with their own stories of separated families and resilient hearts. Amelia, required to perform a classical piece, danced their journey: instead separation, survival, and the unbreakable bonds of love. The girls moved in perfect synchronization, though they'd had no chance to practice together. Their hidden strength blazed forth, revealing what Richard had refused to see: love couldn't be legislated, controlled, or erased. As if summoned by their unified defiance, butterflies began appearing in the garden. Not just a few, but hundreds, drawn to Isabella's flowering bushes that had suddenly burst into bloom. They danced around the girls, creating a living echo of Isabella's presence. "You can't break what nature builds," Sophia announced, her voice carrying across the stunned crowd. "You can't separate hearts that choose to beat as one." Helena stepped forward. "We are not copies or creations. We're sisters, chosen by love, connected by something stronger than blood or law." Clara's gentle voice added strength to their chorus. "Every attempt to divide us has only proved how inseparable we are." Amelia's dance spoke louder than words as she moved through the butterfly cloud, her joy finally unbound. The reporters' cameras captured it all, not the story of rehabilitation Richard had planned, but a testament to love's hidden strength and the power of hearts choosing their own family. In the chaos that followed, Alexander found another letter in the butterfly box, one that had remained hidden until exactly this moment. "My beloved family." If you're reading this, you've discovered what I always knew, that true love grows stronger in separation, that hearts connected by choice cannot be divided by decree. The girls' strength isn't in their similarities to me, but in their unity with each other and the courage to be exactly who they are. Richard never understood that trying to break a butterfly's wings only proves how determined it is to fly. Keep dancing, my darlings. Keep painting, learning, feeling, and moving to the music of your connected hearts. You found the greatest strength of all, the power of love choosing its own way home. Forever with you. Isabella. The hidden strength they'd nurtured through months of separation now blazed like a beacon, impossible to ignore or deny. In the garden of Hope's Haven, surrounded by butterflies and witnesses to love's quiet power, 4 sisters stood united, their hearts beating in a rhythm that no court could silence, no distance could weaken, no decree could break. Nature, it seemed, had its own laws about what made a family whole. The revelation came on a stormy night, exactly 1 year after Isabella's passing. Richard Mitchell sat in his study, watching rain streak down windows that overlooked the now empty garden of Hope's Haven. The press conference disaster had shattered his carefully constructed plans, but it was the package that arrived that morning that finally broke his resolve. A leather journal, worn and water-stained, delivered by Isabella's old housekeeper. She made me promise, the elderly woman had said, trembling. 1 year after, not before, not after, exactly when the butterflies return. Now, as thunder rolled across Boston, Richard opened his sister's final message to him. Dear Richard, by the time you read this, you will have done everything in your power to destroy what I built. Not from hatred, though that's what others believe. From fear, the same fear I saw in your eyes when we were children, watching butterflies emerge from their chrysalis in Mother's garden. You were afraid then, as you are now, of things you couldn't control. Of love that doesn't follow rules or bend to power. Of hearts finding their own ways to connect. The study door opened. Alexander stood there, drenched from the storm, Teresa beside him. Richard didn't ask how they knew to come. Some things he was learning transcended logical explanation. You need to hear this, he said quietly, and continued reading aloud. I watched you grow into a man who believed love could be managed, contained, studied like one of your financial portfolios. When I fell ill, your need for control became desperate. You thought if you could regulate my treatments, monitor my movements, document every decision, you could somehow prevent the inevitable. But you couldn't control death, just as you couldn't control how I chose to leave my legacy of love. Richard's voice cracked. Alexander and Teresa sat silently, listening as years of hidden truth poured forth. The girls. Richard looked up, his face stripped of its usual mask. I convinced myself they were part of some elaborate deception, that you had somehow found children who looked like her, trained them to mimic her, because the alternative, that love could create such profound connections without my understanding how, terrified me. Thunder crashed outside as Richard continued reading. You'll try to separate them, to prove they're not really connected, that their similarities to me are manufactured, but in doing so you'll discover what I learned watching butterflies with you all those years ago. Nature has its own wisdom about family and love that no human control can override. The truth, dear brother, is simple. I didn't choose these girls because they were like me. Love chose them, just as it chose Alexander, just as it chose Teresa to be the sister you and I lost to fear and pride so long ago. Teresa's breath caught. Richard met her eyes for the first time with recognition. You were the baby our parents gave away, the one Isabella found and I pretended didn't exist, because acknowledging you meant accepting that family could extend beyond our controlled, proper boundaries. Alexander watched his former enemy crumble under the weight of truth. Why, Richard? Why go to such lengths to destroy us? Because you had what I never could, Richard whispered. Real love, not the orchestrated relationships I built, not the power-based alliances I cultivated. Isabella loved you freely, completely. And these girls, they love with that same unbridled force. I thought if I could break that, control it, study it, I could finally understand it. More thunder, closer now. Richard returned to the journal. My greatest regret is not helping you understand sooner, not showing you that love's mystery is its beauty, that family isn't about control but about hearts recognizing their own kind. The girls will show you if you let them. They carry not just echoes of my love, but their own unique capacity to love freely, completely, without fear. Let go, dear brother. Let love surprise you as it surprised me when I found these extraordinary children, when I discovered our lost sister, when I fell in love with a man who taught me that family isn't about blood or status or control. Love always finds a way to fly. It's time to stop clipping wings and start watching butterflies dance. Forever your loving sister, Isabella. Richard stood shakily, moving to his desk. He withdrew a thick file, all his legal motions, his evidence, his carefully constructed case against their family. With trembling hands, he fed the papers into his shredder. I filed the paperwork this morning, he said quietly. Withdrawing all claims, all charges. The girls can come home. But he wasn't finished. From his safe, he removed Isabella's last painting, the one he'd used to torment Sophia. This belongs with her family. All of it does. The storm outside began to ease as Richard made his final confession. He spoke of years of fear disguised as concern, of love twisted into control, of a brother so afraid of losing his sister that he tried to own every piece of her legacy. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said finally, just understanding. Isabella offered it to me until the end, and I was too blind to see it. As if in answer, butterflies appeared at his window, 4 of them, their wings catching the first light breaking through the storm clouds. Alexander thought of his daughters, waiting at home, their strength and love having accomplished what no amount of logic or legal battles could, the healing of a heart frozen by fear. Isabella believed in second chances, he said softly, in love's power to transform even the most tightly closed hearts. Maybe it's time you met your nieces properly, not as subjects to be studied or controlled, but as the extraordinary souls they are. The sun broke through completely then, illuminating the study where a man who had spent years fighting love's mysteries finally surrendered to its simple truth. The Boston Globe's headline said it all. Morty family vindicated. A story of love beyond understanding. Richard's public confession had opened floodgates of support and realization throughout the community. But people who had once judged now sought to understand. Those who had turned away now stepped forward to embrace a truth both simpler and more profound than they had imagined. The courthouse steps, where months ago they had faced defeat, now overflowed with supporters. Families from Hope's Haven, former critics, even the social workers who had enforced the separation, all gathered to witness the formal restoration of Alexander's custody rights. Judge Sullivan, who had once ordered the girls' separation, now stood before the crowded courtroom with visible emotion. In 30 years on the bench, she began, I've never issued a reversal with greater conviction. We sought to protect these children by applying standard measures to an extraordinary situation. In doing so, we nearly destroyed something beautiful and rare, a family bound by choice and love rather than conventional ties. The awakening spread through Boston like ripples in a pond. The elite social circles that had shunned them now organized fundraisers for Hope's Haven. Schools that had once viewed the girls with suspicion created programs celebrating diverse family structures. Local artists, inspired by Sophia's paintings, filled galleries with works exploring the theme of chosen families. Mrs. Chen, the bakery owner who had first stood by them, organized a welcome home celebration that grew far beyond her original plans. The entire neighborhood around Hope's Haven transformed into a festival of butterflies, paper ones hanging from trees, painted ones decorating windows, living ones drawn to Isabella's blooming garden, as if nature itself celebrated this victory of love over fear. The girls' return home became a testament to community transformation. Their former foster families, who had witnessed firsthand the power of their connection, came forward with stories that moved others to tears. Helena would wake every morning at exactly the same time as her sister's one foster mother shared. Though miles apart, they stayed synchronized in ways we couldn't explain but learned to respect. Clara's foster family spoke of mysterious comfort appearing just when other children in their care needed it most. She seemed to know, across any distance, when someone was hurting, just like her sisters knew when she needed them. Amelia's dance teacher admitted her prejudices had been transformed. "I thought their similarities were manufactured," coached. "Then I watched this child dance her family's story movements she couldn't have rehearsed with her sisters, yet matched perfectly with their own expressions of love and longing." Sophia's art therapy group created a mural on Hope's Heaven's wall, hundreds of butterflies, each carrying a message about love's power to create true family. The community added their own stories until the wall became a living testament to all the ways hearts find to connect. Even the medical community, which had once supported Richard's clinical concerns, now published studies on emotional bonds that transcended traditional family structures. Dr. Sarah Bennett led research into what she called heart resonance, the mysterious ways love created connections that defied conventional explanation. Local news stations ran special features on Hope's Heaven's success stories. Children who had found healing there spoke about the Moretti sisters' impact on their lives. "They taught us that family isn't about matching DNA," one young boy said. "It's about matching hearts." The transformation reached beyond Boston. Other communities began examining their own assumptions about family bonds. Adoption agencies referenced the Moretti case when advocating for keeping sibling groups together. Social workers incorporated new understandings of emotional connections into their placement decisions. Richard's role in the community's awakening proved particularly powerful. His public acknowledgement of how fear had driven him to mistrust love's mysteries inspired others to examine their own prejudices. "I spent years trying to prove their connection was artificial," he told a packed auditorium at Hope's Haven. "I couldn't accept that love might know better than my charts and studies." Watching these extraordinary girls reunite, seeing how their separation only proved the depth of their bond, taught me that some truths don't need scientific explanation. The awakening culminated in a garden party at the cottage, where Isabella's butterfly bushes bloomed more vibrantly than ever. Community members who had once whispered suspicions now celebrated the miracle of four hearts finding their way home to each other. Sophia painted the scene, not just the visible gathering, but the invisible threads of understanding and acceptance that now connected their once divided community. Helena documented the statistical impossibility of so many butterflies appearing out of season, while Clara felt and shared the collective joy of hearts opening to love's mysteries. Amelia danced through the crowd, her movements expressing what words couldn't capture about transformation and acceptance. Isabella knew this would happen, Teresa told the gathered crowd. "Not just our family's reunion, but this community's awakening to love's power to create its own kind of magic." As if confirming her words, butterflies danced through the garden, their wings catching sunlight like promises kept, like fear transformed into understanding, like love finding new ways to fly. Alexander watched his daughters move through the celebration, each one glowing with the confidence of children who knew they were exactly where and who they were meant to be. The community that had once questioned their connection now celebrated it, having learned that some bonds grow stronger precisely because they defy explanation. In Isabella's garden, where love had planted seeds of understanding that finally bloomed into acceptance, Boston discovered what one remarkable woman had always known: that family is not about matching pieces but about hearts choosing to beat as one. That love's greatest mysteries are often its simplest truths. The final piece of truth emerged on Isabella's birthday. The family had gathered in her garden, where butterflies danced among late summer blooms. Richard, now a regular visitor, arrived carrying a wooden chest Alexander had never seen before. It was Mother's, he explained, setting it gently on the garden table. Isabella asked me to keep it until all the pieces were ready, until we could understand the whole truth. Teresa sat beside him, no longer the stranger he had once rejected, but the sister whose absence had started his fear of love's unpredictability. The girls gathered close, each carrying something Isabella had left for this moment: letters, journals, photographs that only now revealed their full significance. She left trails of truth, Helena observed, adjusting her glasses, like butterfly migration paths, each one leading to this moment. Inside the chest lay Isabella's most treasured possessions: her mother's diary, old family photographs, and a series of letters that would finally complete their understanding. The first photograph showed a young girl, Teresa, being taken from her mother's arms. "Our parents were so young," Richard's voice cracked. "Barely 18. They believed giving you up was the responsible choice, the controlled choice. Isabella never forgave them for choosing societal expectations over love." Teresa touched the photograph gently. "She found me when I was working at my first orphanage. She recognized something, not my face, we weren't identical, but something in my heart that matched hers." "That's how she found us too," Clara said softly. "Not because we looked like her, but because our hearts recognized each other." The diaries revealed a deeper truth. Isabella's mother had spent years searching for the daughter she gave up, her grief and regret growing until she could no longer bear society's polite silence about the baby she had lost. She poured her pain into helping other mothers, secretly supporting orphanages and adoption services. That's why Isabella created Hope's Haven. Teresa realized she was continuing Mother's hidden work, but with one crucial difference: she did it openly, refusing to let fear of judgment stop love from finding its way. Sophia opened one of Isabella's final letters, her hands steady as she read. "My beloved family." The truth has always been simpler than Richard feared or society would accept. Love knows its own. It finds ways to connect hearts across time, space, and circumstance. I recognized Teresa not because we shared blood, but because our hearts beat to the same rhythm of loss and hope. When I found each of my daughters, it wasn't their similarities to me that drew us together. It was their capacity to love freely, completely, without fear of judgment or need for explanation. Each one carried a piece of the truth I learned from our mother's grief, that family is not about matching society's expectations, but about hearts choosing each other. Richard, my dear brother, your fear of uncontrolled love led you to fight against its most beautiful expressions. But in doing so, you helped prove its strength. Our family grew stronger in resistance to your doubt, just as butterflies grow stronger fighting their way out of chrysalises. Teresa, you were never lost, only waiting to complete our circle of understanding. Your work at Hope's Haven, your protection of children others overlooked, your recognition of love's power to create family, you were Isabella's sister in all the ways that truly mattered. And my darling girls, you are not mirrors of me, but unique souls who taught me that love's greatest mystery is its ability to create connections that need no explanation. Your similarities to me are not proof of manipulation, but testament to love's power to echo through generations, finding new ways to express eternal truths. Alexander, my love, you understood first and best. You never needed proof or explanation. You simply loved completely and without reservation, allowing your heart to recognize its own kind. The truth of our family lies not in genetics or circumstance, but in choice, the choice to love without guarantees, to trust without proof, to believe that hearts know their own paths to connection. Let this truth heal old wounds and open new possibilities. Let it transform fear into understanding, doubt into acceptance, loss into love. Forever connected. Isabella. As the letter's words settled over them, something shifted in the garden. The butterflies, which had been dancing randomly, suddenly moved in perfect synchronization, four of them, creating a pattern around the family like a living embrace. Richard watched them with new eyes. "All those years," he said quietly, "I was looking for scientific proof of what love already knew. These girls aren't connected because they're similar to Isabella. They're similar to Isabella because they're connected by love." Teresa reached for his hand. "Some truths can only be understood when we stop trying to explain them." The girls demonstrated this truth in their own ways. Sophia painted the scene, not just the physical gathering, but the invisible bonds of love that connected them all. Helena discovered patterns in their family story that defied statistical probability yet made perfect emotional sense. Clara absorbed and reflected the healing of long-held hurts, while Amelia danced their truth in movements that spoke louder than words. Alexander watched his family, not just his daughters, but Teresa, who had become their second mother, and even Richard, slowly learning to trust love's mysteries. Isabella's truth had transformed them all, not by providing explanations, but by proving that some bonds need no explanation. In the garden where their story began, where butterflies danced and love found endless ways to prove its power, they were finally complete, not because they matched any traditional definition of family, but because their hearts had chosen to beat as one. The final hearing at Suffolk County Courthouse felt different from all those that had come before. Sunlight streamed through high windows, and somewhere outside, butterflies danced in the autumn breeze. Judge Sullivan's chambers, once a place of painful separations, now held the promise of permanent reunion. "The court has reviewed all evidence," Judge Sullivan began, her usual judicial formality softened by genuine emotion. "Including Mr. Mitchell's complete retraction of previous claims, the overwhelming community support, and most importantly, the undeniable evidence of these children's well-being in their chosen family." Alexander sat surrounded by his daughters, each displaying their own version of Isabella's quiet strength. Sophia sketched the moment in her ever-present notebook, while Helena took meticulous notes. Clara held her sister's hands, absorbing and sharing their nervous excitement, and Amelia's feet tapped silent rhythms of hope beneath the table. Furthermore, the judge continued, "In light of the extraordinary circumstances and the profound impact this case has had on our understanding of family bonds, this court is establishing new precedents for cases involving non-traditional family structures." The ruling that followed was everything they had fought for and more. Not just custody rights, but legal recognition of their unique family bond. The trust Isabella had established was reinforced, Hope's heaven's future secured, and most importantly, the girls' right to remain together was permanently protected. "Let the record show," Judge Sullivan declared, her voice carrying to the packed courtroom, "that this court finds the bond between these four sisters and their father to be not just legal but fundamental to their well-being. Any future attempts to separate them will face the strictest scrutiny." Richard, sitting quietly in the back row, nodded in acceptance. His own transformation from adversary to advocate had helped sway the court's opinion. His sworn testimony about how fear had driven him to mistake love for manipulation had become a powerful argument for protecting non-traditional family bonds. As the judge signed the final documents, Sophia revealed her latest painting, a courtroom scene where justice wore butterfly wings and carried scales balanced with hearts instead of weights. Helena had prepared a statistical analysis showing how their family's strength had grown through each challenge. Clara organized a group hug that somehow included even the usually stern bailiff, while Amelia's joy expressed itself in a spontaneous pirouette that made even Judge Sullivan smile. Outside the courthouse, the steps where they had once faced defeat now became a stage for celebration. The community that had learned to see beyond conventional definitions of family gathered to witness love's victory over fear and doubt. Mrs. Chen brought butterfly-shaped cookies from her bakery. Children from Hope's Haven released paper butterflies into the air. Former critics who had become allies shared stories of how the Moetti family had changed their understanding of what makes a family real. Teresa, now legally recognized as the girl's aunt and second guardian, Read from Isabella's final letter to the court. Love creates its own legitimacy. It needs no external validation, no scientific explanation, no social approval. When hearts choose each other, they create bonds stronger than any law can break or any doubt can shake. These girls are sisters not because they share my mannerisms or talents, but because their hearts recognized each other as family. The legal victory represented more than just their family's right to stay together. It established precedents protecting other non-traditional families, creating pathways for love to be recognized in all its diverse forms. Hope's Heaven's future was secured with expanded funding and support. The programs Isabella had dreamed of, art therapy, emotional healing, family bonding, would now reach more children than ever before. The Moetti sisters' story became a beacon of hope for other children seeking their own chosen families. Judge Sullivan took an unprecedented step by establishing a special family court division dedicated to cases involving unique family bonds. The butterfly effect, as it became known, acknowledged that love's capacity to create family couldn't be measured by traditional standards. Richard's legal team, once used to separate the family, now dedicated themselves to protecting similar family bonds. The documentation of their case became a guide for other families fighting to stay together, proving that love could create connections as valid as any biological tie. Alexander watched his daughters absorb the victory in their unique ways. Sophia captured the joy in colors brighter than any she'd used during their separation. Helena documented every detail, creating an archive for future families who might need to fight similar battles. Clara's empathy reached out to other children in the courthouse, sharing their happiness, while Amelia's dance steps told stories of triumph and homecoming. As they left the courthouse, butterflies appeared, hundreds of them, drawn to the joy of the moment. They danced around the family in patterns that seemed to echo Isabella's words about love finding its own ways to prove its power. She knew, Sophia said softly, adding final touches to her sketch. She knew we'd have to fight to stay together, but she also knew love would win. The legal victory wasn't just an end to their struggle, it was a beginning of new understanding about how families could be formed, how love could create connections that deserved protection and respect, how hearts could choose their own paths to belonging. In Isabella's garden, where butterflies still danced among autumn flowers, the family gathered that evening to celebrate not just their victory, but the truth it represented, that love, when given room to grow and freedom to choose its own shape, creates bonds stronger than any law could devise or any doubt could break. The cottage transformed itself for the wedding, just as Isabella's butterfly garden bloomed out of season to celebrate love's newest chapter. Teresa, radiant in a dress that perfectly matched the butterfly's wings, stood beside Alexander under arch woven with Isabella's favorite flowers. The girls, each beautiful in their own way, formed a circle of love around their father and soon-to-be official mother. Sophia had painted their dresses with delicate butterfly patterns, while Helena calculated the exact moment when sunlight would create a natural spotlight through the garden's trees. Clara arranged everyone's positions to maximize emotional connection, and Amelia choreographed their movements to music only their hearts could hear. Isabella brought us together. Alexander began his vows, his voice steady with certainty. She taught us that love creates its own kind of family, that hearts know their own paths to connection. Teresa, you were her sister by choice before we knew you were her sister by blood. You helped protect our daughters when I couldn't. You kept Isabella's vision of love alive when others tried to extinguish it. Teresa's response came from the heart that had recognized its family across time and circumstance. I promise to continue Isabella's legacy of love, not just in grand gestures, but in daily moments of understanding, in midnight comfort for bad dreams, in celebration of each unique spirit that makes our family whole. The girls had prepared their own surprise. As their parents exchanged rings, they performed a ceremony of their own design. Sophia unveiled a painting showing their family tree, not a traditional diagram of blood relations, but a butterfly garden where love created its own patterns of connection. Helena read a poem she had composed, weaving together scientific observations about family bonds in nature with the emotional truth of their own story. Clara led them in a ritual of hand holding that spread through the gathered guests, creating a physical web of connection. Amelia danced their family's journey from separation to reunion, from fear to understanding, from loss to love renewed. Even Richard participated, his transformation from opponent to uncle complete. He gave a speech that moved many to tears, acknowledging how his fear of uncontrolled love had nearly destroyed something beautiful. Isabella taught me through these extraordinary girls that love doesn't need to be understood to be real, he said, watching his nieces with newfound wonder. It just needs to be allowed to fly free. The reception turned into a celebration of all forms of family. Children from Hope's Haven performed songs about chosen families. Former foster parents who had cared for the girls during their separation shared stories of witnessing their unbreakable connection. Community members who had learned to see beyond conventional definitions of family brought gifts symbolizing transformation and unity. Mrs. Chen outdid herself with the wedding cake, creating an elaborate design of butterflies that seemed to take flight with each layer. For Isabella, she said simply, pointing to 4 small butterflies that crowned the top, their wings touching in an eternal dance of connection. As evening approached, the garden filled with soft lights that Sophia and Helena had arranged to mimic starlight. Clara ensured that every guest felt personally welcomed and connected, while Amelia led everyone in a dance that celebrated love's victory over fear and doubt. Then came the moment that brought tears to every eye. The girls unveiled their wedding gift, a completed version of Isabella's last unfinished painting. Each had contributed in their own way: Sophia's artistic vision, Helena's understanding of light and shadow, Clara's emotional depth, and Amelia's sense of movement. The painting showed their family not as it was, but as Isabella had seen it would become whole, united, strengthened by challenges overcome, made richer by love's ability to create connections beyond blood or law. She knew, Sophia explained, touching the butterfly that seemed to float off the canvas. She knew love would find a way to complete our family. As if in response to her words, real butterflies appeared in the twilight garden, their wings catching the last rays of sun like promises kept, like love proven true through trial and triumph. Teresa and Alexander's first dance as married couple became a family affair, with the girls joining in a choreographed celebration of their unity. Even Richard found himself drawn into the dance, his former rigidity melting into genuine joy. Later, as stars began to appear, Alexander found his daughters sitting in their favorite spot in the garden, where Isabella's presence felt strongest. "Do you think she's happy?" Clara asked softly, her natural empathy reaching across the boundary between worlds. Look, Sophia pointed to her latest sketch, a family portrait where butterflies formed a bridge between earth and sky, between loss and love, between what was and what had become. "The probability of all of us finding each other," Helena mused, "of love creating such specific connections across time and circumstance. It defies statistical explanation." "Because love doesn't need explanation," Amelia said, dancing softly in place. "It just needs room to fly." Teresa joined them, her wedding dress catching starlight like butterfly wings. Isabella knew love would find its way, she said, gathering her family close. Not just between her and Alexander, or between the girls, but between all of us. She knew hearts would recognize their own kind. The night ended with a tradition the girls had created, releasing paper lanterns into the sky, each carrying messages of love and gratitude. As the lights floated upward, joining the stars, their family stood united not by chance or circumstance, but by choice, by love's infinite capacity to create connections that defied explanation, but proved themselves real in every moment, every challenge, every triumph shared. In Isabella's garden, where butterflies still danced among night-blooming flowers, love had finally completed its transformation from loss to renewal, from separation to unity, from fear to understanding. The family she had envisioned, bound not by traditional ties but by hearts choosing to beat as one, stood whole and strong under the stars. 5 years after the wedding, Hope's Haven had grown beyond Isabella's wildest dreams. The original Victorian mansion now anchored a campus of healing and hope, where children from around the world found their own ways to create family bonds that transcended traditional definition. On a bright spring morning, Sophia, now a poised teenager, stood before an eager group of young artists. Her art therapy program, Butterfly Effects, had become Hope's Haven's most successful initiative. Art isn't about perfect technique, she told her students, echoing Isabella's words. It's about letting your heart find its own way to speak truth. Sometimes the most beautiful paintings come from our deepest hurts transformed by love. In the science wing that Helena had helped design, children learned to balance logic with emotion, to understand that some connections couldn't be explained but could still be celebrated. Her research on family bonds had gained international recognition, proving that love created measurable positive changes in children's development. Clara's empathy program, Healing Hearts, trained young people to recognize and support emotional needs in others. Her gentle wisdom, so like Isabella's, helped countless children navigate the journey from trauma to trust. Amelia's dance studio buzzed with energy as she taught children to express their stories through movement. When words aren't enough, she would say, "Let your heart dance its truth." Alexander and Teresa watched their daughter's growth with pride, seeing how each had taken Isabella's legacy and made it uniquely their own. The family lived in a larger home now, but Isabella's cottage remained their heart's center, its garden still blooming with the butterflies that had marked their journey from the beginning. Richard, transformed from adversary to advocate, had established a foundation supporting non-traditional families. His office walls, once covered with cold financial charts, now displayed children's artwork and photographs of successful adoptions. On this particular morning, the family gathered in Isabella's garden for a special ceremony. Hope's Haven was dedicating its new International Center for Family Studies, and the girls had prepared something extraordinary. Sophia unveiled a mural that covered an entire wall of the new building. It told their family's story, but with a universal twist showing how love created connections in countless ways, how hearts found their own paths to belonging. Helena presented research demonstrating how Hope's Haven's approach had revolutionized understanding of family bonds. Traditional metrics can't measure love, she concluded. But they can measure its effects in children's growth, in emotional healing, in the creation of lasting family connections. Clara had organized a gathering of families touched by Hope's Haven over the years. Each shared stories of how understanding love's capacity to create unconventional but profound family bonds had transformed their lives. Amelia led a performance where children from different backgrounds, speaking different languages, told their stories through dance. No words were needed to understand the universal language of hearts finding their way home. The ceremony's highlight came when Alexander revealed Isabella's final gift, a time capsule she had prepared, meant to be opened on this exact day. Inside, they found letters addressed to each family member, describing the future she had envisioned. "My beloved family." Her words rang clear across time. "Today you stand where I always knew you would, at the heart of a revolution in understanding what makes a family real. Not blood, not law, not society's expectations, but love's infinite capacity to create connections that defy explanation while proving themselves true in every moment lived, every challenge faced, every joy shared. To my extraordinary daughters, you have become exactly who you were meant to be, carrying my love forward not as a burden or an obligation, but as inspiration to help others find their own paths to family and belonging. Sophia, your art speaks truth that words can't capture. Helena, your brilliant mind proves that understanding doesn't require explaining away mystery. Clara, your heart continues to heal others while growing stronger itself. Amelia, your dance tells stories that help others find their own rhythm of belonging. Alexander and Teresa, You have created something more beautiful than I could have imagined, a family that proves love knows no boundaries, that hearts find their own ways to connect and heal and grow. And Richard, my brother, your journey from fear to understanding helps others trust love's mysteries instead of trying to control them. The butterflies will always dance in this garden, reminding us that transformation is constant, that beauty emerges from struggle, that love finds ways to fly free of any constraints we try to place upon it. Continue this work. Let Hope's Haven be not just a place, but a promise that every heart can find its family, that every love creates its own kind of magic, that every story of belonging adds to the infinite ways we create connection. With eternal love. Isabella. As the letter's words settled over the gathered crowd, butterflies appeared, hundreds of them, dancing through the garden in patterns that seemed to echo Isabella's vision of love's endless capacity to create family. Alexander watched his daughters receive the next generation of children seeking their own paths to belonging. Sophia helped young artists express their hopes in color and light. Helena explained complex emotions with simple clarity. Clara's gentle presence soothed hurting hearts. Amelia's dance invited others to join in celebration of love's triumph. Isabella's legacy lived on, not just in the family she had created, but in every life touched by their story, every heart that learned to trust love's power to create connections beyond blood or law or understanding. In the garden where their journey began, where butterflies still danced among eternal blooms, love continued to find new ways to fly, to connect, to create family bonds that needed no explanation beyond the simple truth of hearts recognizing their own kind. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey of love, family, and transformation. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do to protect your family's bonds? How has love created unexpected connections in your life? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more touching stories that celebrate the power of love and family. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content that reminds us all of life's most precious gifts. Share this video with friends and loved ones who might need a reminder that family isn't just about blood, it's about hearts choosing each other. Every like, share, and comment helps spread this message of hope and understanding. Join our growing community of storytellers and believers in love's power to transform lives. See you in the next story.